The ancient world is a puzzle, its pieces scattered across time, each one holding secrets that challenge everything we think we know about our past. How did they move stones weighing hundreds of tons without the technology we take for granted? Why do certain structures appear perfectly aligned with the stars, decades, even centuries, before modern astronomy? For centuries, we've gazed at these monuments with awe, but also confusion. What did they know that we don't? In the next 3 hours, we'll uncover the mysteries that still baffle experts, unlocking strange truths buried deep beneath the earth. Prepare to question history and the very limits of human understanding. Nestled in the vast, arid landscape of southern Peru, near the desolate town of Nazca, lies the enigmatic site of Cahuachi. Surrounded by the endless expanse of desert, this ancient city is a silent testament to a civilization that once thrived, yet whose mysteries continue to baffle archaeologists and historians alike. The site stretches across a wide plateau, its monumental structures seemingly abandoned in a hurry. Temples, ceremonial platforms, and pyramids rise from the earth, their shapes eroded by centuries of wind and time. Some of these structures are adorned with intricate designs, their once vivid colors now faded but still discernible to the discerning eye. These are not the ruins of a typical ancient city. The architecture suggests something more, something grander and more purposeful, as if it were designed for a specific, unknown ritual. What, exactly, was Cahuachi? Established around 1000 BC, Cahuachi was the ceremonial heart of the Nazca civilization, a people known for their advanced knowledge of agriculture, art, and astronomy. Yet, despite its prominence, the city appears to have been deliberately abandoned around the 6th century AD, long before the Nazca civilization itself came to its ultimate decline. Why? What could have caused the sudden desertion of such an important site, one that seemed to have played a central role in the culture's religious and social life? Archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of artifacts at Cahuachi: pottery, textiles, and even human remains. These finds suggest a society deeply invested in ritual and the spiritual world, with a possible connection to the vast network of Nazca lines, the famous geoglyphs visible only from the sky. Were these people attempting to communicate with the gods, or perhaps with beings from beyond the earth? The sheer scale and complexity of the structures at Cahuachi point to something far beyond a typical ceremonial center. They suggest a society that was attempting to harness a force greater than themselves, perhaps the power of the desert itself, or the alignment of the stars. The city's most puzzling feature, however, lies in its apparent purpose. While Cahuachi undoubtedly had religious significance, some theorists believe it may have also been a center for astronomical observation. The layout of the site appears to be aligned with certain celestial bodies, and its structures might have been designed to track the movements of the stars or even the passage of time. Could the Nazca people have been attempting to interpret the heavens in ways that we have yet to fully comprehend? The idea of ancient peoples as astronomers, charting the cosmos with unparalleled precision, is not new, but Cahuachi adds an intriguing layer of complexity to this theory. Then there are the whispers of a more mystical purpose. Some fringe theories suggest that Cahuachi could have been an interdimensional portal, a place where ancient rituals allowed for contact with entities from another realm. Others speculate that the Nazca, with their sophisticated knowledge of geometry and proportions, might have been drawing maps or creating symbols meant to connect with forces beyond their understanding. Could the ruins be a symbol of their attempt to reach higher planes of existence? What makes Cahuachi even more perplexing is that it doesn't fit neatly into the traditional narrative of pre-Columbian civilizations. Unlike many other ancient sites in the Americas, there is no definitive evidence of large-scale warfare, nor is there a clear pattern of urban development leading to the rise of a powerful empire. The Nazca people seem to have focused their energy primarily on ritual, art, and agriculture, leaving behind few material traces of the kind of social or political structures that defined other ancient civilizations. Despite the decades of excavation and study, much about Cahuachi remains elusive. Some scholars argue that it may have been abandoned due to environmental changes, such as the drying up of water sources, while others believe that the city's sacred nature may have led to its eventual abandonment in the pursuit of a more spiritual existence. What is certain is that Cahuachi's purpose was deeply entwined with the Nazca's understanding of the cosmos, their gods, and the natural world. Yet, the question still lingers. If Cahuachi was truly a site of such power and significance, why did it fall into ruin? Was it the forces of nature? A change in belief? Or, as some suggest, is there more to Cahuachi than we've yet discovered, perhaps hidden in plain sight, waiting to reveal its secrets when we are ready to listen? As we ponder this, one must ask, how many other cities like Cahuachi, steeped in mystery, remain scattered across the earth, waiting to be unearthed, their stories yet to be told? As we leave the arid expanse of the Peruvian desert, we turn our gaze to the dense jungles of Guatemala, where another mystery lies hidden in the depths of the Maya lowlands. Here, amidst the thick canopy of trees, stand the ancient ruins of Uaxactun, an archaeological site that, like Cahuachi, has long captured the imagination of scholars and adventurers alike. Uaxactun is a place where time seems to stand still. Its towering pyramids, decayed stone temples, and faintly visible plazas are scattered across the rainforest, their outlines slowly being reclaimed by nature. The ruins of Uaxactun are not as well known as the more famous Maya cities, such as Tikal, but their significance is no less remarkable. This site, established around 1000 BC, holds a key to understanding the complex and mysterious world of the ancient Maya. As we walk through the remnants of this city, we encounter the first clues, the incredible precision of its construction. Unlike many other Maya cities, Uaxactun appears to have been laid out with a clear, almost obsessive focus on the movements of the stars. The layout of its central plaza is aligned with the solstices, and some of the temples seem to have been constructed specifically for astronomical observations. It is here, in the thick jungle air, that one might begin to feel the presence of something larger, something that transcends mere architecture. Uaxactun's role in the Maya world is well established. It was a key ceremonial and astronomical center, where priests and scholars would have observed the heavens and charted the cycles of the sun and moon. But what is less clear is why Uaxactun's influence appears to have waned centuries before the collapse of the greater Maya civilization. The site was abandoned long before the classic Maya cities reached their peak, and its later years seem to be shrouded in mystery. What caused Uaxactun to fade into obscurity? Some archaeologists suggest that a shift in political or economic power led to the city's decline. Perhaps the Maya rulers of Uaxactun fell out of favor, or the city became irrelevant as new centers of power rose to prominence. Others speculate that Uaxactun's focus on celestial observation and ritual might have drawn it away from the more practical concerns of day-to-day life, causing its people to slowly abandon the city for more pragmatic settlements. However, these theories only tell part of the story. What is most fascinating about Uaxactun is the sense that its mysteries are far from fully understood. Beneath the surface of the ruins lies a potential for discovery that has yet to be realized. For example, some of the structures at Uaxactun seem to have been constructed with an unusual understanding of geometry, one that is far more advanced than what was thought possible for the time. The precise angles and alignments of certain buildings suggest that the Maya might have possessed knowledge of mathematics and astronomy that we have yet to fully comprehend. Did they have a more complex understanding of the cosmos than we are willing to admit? Was there some deeper, esoteric meaning behind their calculations, one that we have only begun to scratch the surface of? Moreover, there are the peculiarities of the city's sudden abandonment. While many ancient cities fell due to warfare, famine, or environmental change, the decline of Uaxactun appears to have been quieter, more gradual. The inhabitants didn't flee in the face of destruction, they simply disappeared. Could there have been a spiritual or ideological shift that led the people of Uaxactun to abandon their sacred city? Was it possible that the city had fulfilled its purpose, and the priests and rulers chose to leave behind the stone temples and disappear into the jungle, never to return? The absence of written records makes these questions even more difficult to answer. Unlike other Maya cities, Uaxactun's surviving inscriptions are sparse. The few that do exist are fragmented and offer little insight into the reasons behind the city's decline. Could there have been an even greater purpose to Uaxactun that remains obscured by time? Was it a place of ritual sacrifice, not just for the body, but for something more? An offering to the gods in a way that we cannot fully understand? In addition to its mysterious abandonment, Uaxactun's role as an astronomical center raises yet another layer of intrigue. The Maya were known for their advanced knowledge of the stars, but Uaxactun seems to have been especially focused on celestial cycles. The city's central pyramid, structure E, has been identified as a possible observatory, where the Maya would have tracked the movements of Venus and other celestial bodies. Could there have been an underlying belief that the heavens held the key to understanding fate itself? Were the priests of Uaxactun not merely observing the stars, but actively trying to decipher the will of the gods? The questions surrounding Uaxactun are numerous, and the answers are elusive. Like many ancient sites, the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is still to uncover. Did the people of Uaxactun foresee their own disappearance? Or was it an unexpected end to a city that once held such promise? Could there still be secrets hidden beneath the jungle, waiting to be uncovered by future explorers? As we leave Uaxactun behind, the echoes of its past remain in the rustling of the jungle leaves and the stillness of its stone structures. The site may have faded from the pages of history, but its mysteries continue to beckon, silent, waiting to reveal the truths that have eluded us for centuries. As we journey deeper into the heart of ancient mysteries, we move from the jungles of Uaxactun to the sun-baked hills of Palestine, where another enigma lies beneath the earth, quiet, forgotten, and yet undeniably powerful. In a secluded area near the modern city of Haifa, hidden among the hills, stands the Tomb of the Kings. This ancient burial site, unearthed in the early 20th century, continues to spark fascination, both for its awe-inspiring structure and for the mysteries that still surround it. The tomb itself is a grand, monumental structure, carved directly into the limestone bedrock, with the grandeur of its design suggesting that it was intended for more than just an ordinary burial. The walls of the tomb are lined with intricate carvings, faded but still vivid in their symbolic representations of the afterlife and the divine. It is as if the tomb was meant not just to house the dead, but to usher them into another realm. For a tomb to be so elaborate, one might expect it to belong to a powerful ruler, and indeed, this is what most believe. Yet there are few certainties about the identity of the occupant. The site is named Tomb of the Kings, but its precise connection to any known historical figure remains unclear. While some scholars argue that it may have belonged to a member of the Hasmonean dynasty, a ruling family of Judea during the 2nd century BC, others suggest that it might be the final resting place of a previously unknown king or noble, someone whose name has been lost to history. The lack of inscriptions or identifying markers complicates matters further. In a world where royal tombs were often marked with grand epigraphs, why does this tomb remain nameless? One of the most striking features of the Tomb of the Kings is its sheer scale. The structure is immense, and it's clear that it was built with great care and skill, suggesting that those who commissioned its construction possessed both wealth and power. The tomb consists of multiple chambers, some of which are empty, while others contain traces of funerary goods, fragments of pottery, remnants of textiles, and broken pieces of jewelry. Yet despite the apparent richness of the tomb, there is a chilling absence of human remains. The primary burial chamber, which would have once contained the sarcophagus, is strangely empty. Where did the bodies go? And why were they removed? One possible explanation is that the tomb was looted. The region has been plagued by looting for centuries, especially during the tumultuous periods of conflict and conquest that marked the history of the area. Yet the tomb's peculiar emptiness raises more questions than answers. If it was looted, why was it left untouched for so long before being discovered by modern archaeologists? What secrets might have once lain within these walls? Secrets that were either stolen long ago or that remain buried, waiting to be uncovered? Some have suggested that the tomb was not looted at all, but rather that its contents were removed for reasons that we may never fully understand. Was there something so sacred about the tomb that it was considered inappropriate to disturb its final resting place? Or did the tomb's original purpose transcend the typical burial rituals of the time, suggesting a deeper, more spiritual meaning? One of the most curious aspects of the Tomb of the Kings is its architectural design. Unlike many other tombs from the same period, which were simple in their construction and function, the Tomb of the Kings reflects a level of sophistication that points to a society with advanced engineering knowledge. The tomb's corridors and chambers are aligned with the natural landscape in a way that suggests a deep understanding of geometry and the movement of celestial bodies. Could the tomb have been built not just as a final resting place, but as an astronomical observatory, a site where the cycles of the stars were tracked, or where the dead were believed to ascend into the heavens? Some scholars believe that the tomb may have been designed to interact with the stars in specific ways, marking an important alignment or event in the ancient calendar. In addition to its astronomical precision, the tomb's location is also significant. Situated in a region known for its strategic importance throughout history, the site has witnessed countless civilizations pass through it, from the ancient Israelites to the Roman Empire, and later, the Crusaders. Could it be that the tomb's position was chosen for its symbolic meaning, placing the deceased at the heart of a land that has long been considered sacred? The idea that tombs and burial sites were chosen with an understanding of their spiritual significance is not unique to this site. It has been a practice in many ancient cultures. But the Tomb of the Kings stands out in its scale and apparent complexity. Another compelling theory regarding the Tomb of the Kings is the possibility that it was not a tomb at all, but rather a ritual site, perhaps linked to ancient religious practices that are only dimly remembered today. Could the tomb have been used for ceremonial purposes, such as the passage of kings into the afterlife or the performance of rites meant to honor the gods? In many ancient cultures, the burial of a king was seen as a sacred event that required not just the laying of the body to rest, but the performance of complex rituals to ensure that the spirit would safely ascend into the afterlife. Perhaps the Tomb of the Kings was constructed with these rites in mind, its chambers designed to facilitate the transition from life to death in ways that we have yet to understand. Despite the many theories and speculations, the Tomb of the Kings remains a place shrouded in mystery. While it offers us glimpses into the lives and beliefs of those who lived long ago, it refuses to give up its secrets easily. Was it truly a royal tomb, or did it serve another, more mysterious purpose? Why were its contents removed, and who was the individual buried, or perhaps not buried, there? As we stand before the silent, weathered stone walls, we are left with more questions than answers. The Tomb of the Kings continues to be a puzzle, a riddle from the distant past that refuses to be solved. What remains hidden beneath the stone? What was lost to time, waiting to be discovered by those with the patience and curiosity to dig deeper into its shadowy depths? Only time will tell. As the ancient stones of the Tomb of the Kings fade into the horizon, we now turn our gaze southward. to the sun-drenched shores of the Aegean Sea, where another enigma quietly rests beneath the Mediterranean sky. On the island of Crete, nestled along the northern coast, lies the Minoan city of Malia, an archaeological site that holds the remnants of a civilization that flourished over 4,000 years ago, yet whose mysteries continue to elude full understanding. Malia is not as famous as the great palace complexes of Knossos, but its ruins are no less significant. As you approach the site, the first thing that strikes you is its vastness. The remains of the city sprawl across a wide plain, stretching from the foothills of the mountains to the edge of the coastline. Here, the ancient Minoans built an urban center that was once a thriving hub of trade, culture, and power. The remains of sprawling palace complexes, multi-storied buildings, and paved streets suggest that Malia was a well-planned and prosperous city, its inhabitants enjoying a level of sophistication far beyond what might be expected for its time. The central feature of the site is the Minoan Palace, a sprawling structure with intricate frescoes and elaborate architectural details. It is a place where history seems to pulse through every stone. Inside, the faint traces of frescoes still remain on the walls, depicting scenes of nature, ceremonial rites, and royal life. These colorful images offer a glimpse into the daily life of the Minoans, but they also raise questions. What was the true significance of the intricate rituals and imagery painted on the walls? Why were these particular scenes chosen, and what meaning did they hold for the Minoans? At its height, Malia was one of the largest cities on Crete, strategically located along the sea trade routes, which allowed the Minoans to prosper through commerce. The discovery of large storage rooms filled with grain, oil, and other goods suggests that the city played an important role in the island's economy. But Malia's significance goes beyond its material wealth. The Minoans are often described as a peaceful, non-militaristic society, and their art and architecture seem to reflect this. There are few depictions of warfare or conflict, and much of their culture appears to have centered around religion, ritual, and the veneration of nature. Yet, despite the sophistication of the Minoan civilization, the city of Malia remains surrounded by an air of mystery. It is unclear what ultimately led to its decline. Like many other ancient sites, Malia was abandoned around 1450 BC at the height of the Minoan civilization's power. What caused this sudden disappearance? Was it the result of natural disaster, such as the catastrophic eruption of the Thera volcano, which would have wreaked havoc on Crete and the surrounding islands? Or was it something more insidious, a slow unraveling of a society that had grown too complex to sustain itself? The volcanic eruption of Thera, which devastated much of the Minoan world, is a widely accepted explanation for the decline of the civilization. The eruption, thought to have occurred around 1600 BC, sent ash plumes across the Mediterranean, creating climate shifts and tsunamis that caused widespread destruction. Malia, located near the sea, would likely have been impacted by the resulting natural disasters. Yet, the timeline of Malia's abandonment does not perfectly align with this theory. Some of the city's buildings show signs of being deliberately dismantled, which suggests that the end was not entirely the result of a sudden disaster, but rather a more gradual collapse. Could internal strife, political instability, or economic changes have played a role in the city's downfall? In addition to the natural explanations, some scholars have suggested that the decline of Malia might have been linked to the shifting power dynamics within the Minoan civilization itself. The palace at Knossos, far larger and more grandiose than Malia, might have absorbed the political and economic power that once resided in Malia, causing it to fade into the background. Could the political shifts between cities have led to the abandonment of Malia, not as the result of disaster, but of cultural and economic obsolescence? However, there are more speculative theories surrounding Malia's demise. Some have proposed that the city was abandoned due to the intervention of external forces, whether from the Achaeans or other ancient groups, potentially leading to a foreign invasion or a gradual conquest. Though there is little direct evidence to support this idea, it does linger in the minds of those who study the ancient Mediterranean world. If this theory holds any truth, it would suggest a story of political intrigue and warfare far removed from the peaceful image of the Minoans that we often associate with the civilization. As we examine the ruins of Malia, it becomes clear that this site is more than just an archaeological dig. It is a window into a world that once thrived, a world that we are only beginning to understand. The city's advanced architecture, its art, and its intricate trade networks suggest a culture of great sophistication. Yet the questions surrounding its decline remain unanswered. Could it have been a series of misfortunes, a confluence of natural disasters, shifting politics, and economic changes? Or was there something more mysterious at play? Perhaps the city's abandonment was the result of a deeper spiritual or cultural shift, a decision to leave behind not just the buildings, but the very foundations of the society itself. What is certain is that, much like other ancient sites, Malia continues to hold its secrets. There are still unanswered questions about the Minoans, their culture, and their eventual disappearance from the historical record. What caused their sudden decline, and why did Malia, once a thriving city, fall into ruin? Could the answers lie hidden beneath the unexcavated portions of the site, or in the unexplored corners of Minoan culture, waiting to be uncovered? As we stand before the crumbling walls of Malia, we are left with a profound sense of wonder. The Minoans, with their sophisticated civilization and enigmatic decline, remain a puzzle that has yet to be fully solved. And like the many other mysteries we've explored on this journey, the truth may be just out of reach, buried beneath layers of time and history, waiting for someone to uncover it once more. As we leave behind the enigmatic remnants of the Minoan world, our journey now takes us to the Iberian Peninsula, where, nestled in the hills of southeastern Spain, lies the ancient site of La Bastida, a place of defense, mystery, and untold stories. This Bronze Age settlement, dating back to around 2200 BC, offers us a rare glimpse into a culture that once flourished on the outskirts of the Mediterranean world, but has largely remained in the shadows of history. La Bastida is not just another ancient site. It is a fortress, a strategic stronghold whose secrets have puzzled archaeologists for decades. The site of La Bastida is perched on a rugged hilltop, its stone walls still visible in places, tracing the contours of a long-abandoned settlement. The settlement's defensive nature is immediately apparent. Its towering fortifications are not only a testament to the engineering skill of its inhabitants, but also to the dangers they must have faced. The fortifications are elaborate, with massive stone walls, gates, and watchtowers that seem to have been designed to keep something, or someone, out. These defensive features suggest that the people of La Bastida were not only interested in survival, but in protecting something crucial, something worth defending. The structures themselves are simple yet sturdy, built with large stone blocks that have stood the test of time. In the midst of these defensive walls, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of homes, workshops, and storage spaces, indicating that La Bastida was a vibrant, functional city. But it is the defensive walls that draw the most attention. How could a relatively small Bronze Age society have invested so much energy and resources into fortifying their settlement? What were they guarding against? La Bastida's strategic location provides some insight into the answer. The site is situated near a natural pass, a route through the mountains that would have been key for trade and communication. This position made La Bastida an important point on the landscape, controlling access to both land and sea. But the question lingers: why such elaborate defenses for what was, by all accounts, a relatively small society? Could it be that they were anticipating something more than just a typical threat from neighboring tribes? While the fortifications are remarkable, it is the discovery of artifacts that adds layers of intrigue to the story of La Bastida. Among the remains, archaeologists have unearthed finely crafted pottery, tools, and jewelry, items that speak to a people with advanced skills in metallurgy, pottery, and trade. There are also signs of religious and ceremonial practices, including idols and offerings. These findings suggest that La Bastida was not simply a place of defense and survival, but a thriving community with a rich cultural and spiritual life. Yet, despite these advances, there is an underlying tension at the heart of the settlement. Could the prosperity of La Bastida have attracted the attention of rival factions, or was there something more profound at play? One of the most curious aspects of La Bastida is the absence of any clear evidence of warfare. While the fortifications are impressive, there are no obvious signs of violent conflict. No skeletal remains showing evidence of battle, no weapons strewn across the site, no traces of destruction. In a region known for frequent tribal conflicts during the Bronze Age, why is there no indication of war? Could it be that La Bastida's inhabitants were able to maintain their position through diplomacy, trade, or alliances? Or, as some suggest, could the city have been abandoned suddenly, perhaps due to a catastrophic event, such as an invasion, a natural disaster, or internal strife? The absence of destruction raises as many questions as it answers. Some archaeologists speculate that La Bastida may have been a target of external forces. The Bronze Age Mediterranean world was marked by complex networks of trade and competition for resources, and La Bastida's strategic location could have made it an attractive target for other, more powerful groups. Yet, this theory does not fully explain the lack of any physical evidence of such an attack. Could the city have been abandoned voluntarily, its people fleeing in anticipation of an invasion, leaving behind their homes, their possessions, and their carefully constructed defenses? In recent years, some scholars have begun to entertain a more speculative theory that La Bastida may have been involved in some form of ancient ritual or symbolic defense rather than a practical one. Could the fortifications, rather than being designed to repel human invaders, have served a more symbolic purpose? Perhaps a way to protect the city from supernatural forces or to mark the boundaries of sacred space? This idea is, of course, highly speculative, but it raises an intriguing possibility. Could the people of La Bastida have built their walls not just to keep others out, but to keep something in or to protect their community from forces beyond their understanding? The defensive nature of the site, combined with the sophisticated artifacts found within it, suggests that the people of La Bastida were not just defending against external threats, but might have also been preparing for something larger, an unknown force that has yet to be identified. The city's design, with its carefully planned streets, courtyards, and the deliberate positioning of its buildings, hints at a culture that understood the importance of not just physical protection, but psychological and spiritual fortification as well. Moreover, the site's sudden abandonment is as much a mystery as its construction. Archaeologists have found no definitive evidence to explain why the inhabitants left so abruptly. Some suggest that a natural disaster, like an earthquake or a flood, may have forced them to flee. Others point to the possibility of political instability or resource depletion. But again, the lack of any definitive cause makes it difficult to pin down what truly happened. What is particularly fascinating is that the mysterious circumstances surrounding La Bastida's abandonment seem to mirror those of other ancient defensive sites, where the reasons for the sudden departure of their inhabitants remain obscured. It's as if the defensive walls were built not just to keep people out, but to protect something from being lost or destroyed, something of great value, whether it be a culture, an artifact, or a way of life that had to be preserved at all costs. Standing among the remnants of La Bastida today, it is impossible not to feel the weight of its history pressing down. The fortifications, though weathered by time, still exude a sense of purpose and mystery. Why did the people of La Bastida go to such lengths to defend their city? And why did they ultimately leave it behind, abandoning their elaborate defenses, their homes, and their way of life? Was it the pressures of an outside threat, the collapse of an internal system, or something deeper, something we have yet to uncover? The story of La Bastida remains unfinished, the questions still lingering in the shadows. What secrets lie hidden beneath the earth, and what might still be waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to explore this mysterious Bronze Age fortress? Only time will tell. As we leave behind the rocky hills and defensive walls of La Bastida, our journey now takes us across the vast deserts of the American Southwest, to a place where the desert winds whisper of ancient cultures and forgotten civilizations. Here, in the heart of New Mexico, lies the site of Pecos, Pueblo, a sprawling, mysterious archaeological ruin that stands as a testament to a once thriving Native American culture, now lost to time. Pecos, Pueblo is a place that evokes both awe and intrigue, where the ruins of its great adobe structures seem to speak of a way of life that flourished long before the arrival of Europeans. The remnants of Pecos, Pueblo are perched on a broad, flat mesa, overlooking the arid plains below. The site itself is striking. Vast circular kivas, large multi-story adobe buildings, and crumbling stone walls stretch across the landscape, their outlines softened by the passage of centuries. The view from the top is haunting, an expansive horizon dotted with sagebrush and scattered cacti, a stark reminder of the desert's unforgiving nature. But Pecos, Pueblo is not just any ruin. It was once a thriving center of culture, politics, and trade, home to the Pecos people who were part of the larger Puebloan culture that inhabited the Southwest for centuries. The history of Pecos, Pueblo dates back over 700 years, to the early 12th century A.D. At its peak, it was a flourishing hub with as many as 2,000 inhabitants. The site was strategically located at the crossroads of important trade routes, making it a key center for commerce, culture, and political power. The Puebloans were renowned for their advanced agricultural techniques, including the cultivation of maize, beans, and squash, and their intricate terraced homes and communal structures were feats of engineering in their own right. The kivas, circular underground chambers used for religious and ceremonial purposes, stand as some of the most well-preserved features of Pecos, Pueblo, offering us a glimpse into the spiritual life of its people. Yet, despite its importance, Pecos, Pueblo is shrouded in mystery. While historians have a general understanding of the Puebloan culture and the significance of Pecos within it, the reasons behind its eventual decline and abandonment remain elusive. The site was vacated by its inhabitants sometime around the early 1800s, but the exact reasons for this exodus are still debated. Some point to the pressures of European colonization and the encroachment of settlers and missionaries from the east. Others suggest that a combination of environmental factors, such as prolonged droughts and resource depletion, might have played a role in the Puebloans' decision to leave their once thriving city. However, the narrative of Pecos, Pueblo's decline is far more complex than a simple tale of external conquest or environmental disaster. The ruins themselves offer hints of something deeper. Archaeological evidence points to signs of internal upheaval, a possible breakdown of social structures, and a shift in religious or cultural practices. Some of the buildings at Pecos, Pueblo appear to have been hastily abandoned, with possessions left behind and structures left incomplete. This sudden departure raises a host of questions. Was there a conflict within the community, a political or religious schism that drove the inhabitants to leave? Or was the abandonment the result of a more gradual, drawn-out process, where the people of Pecos simply moved on in search of a better life elsewhere? One of the most compelling theories about the decline of Pecos, Pueblo involves the arrival of Spanish explorers and missionaries in the 16th century. The Spanish colonization of the American Southwest had a profound impact on the indigenous cultures, as missionaries sought to convert the native populations to Christianity, while settlers claimed land and resources. Pecos Pueblo, strategically located and influential within the Pueblo world, became an early point of contact between the indigenous peoples and the Spanish. By the late 1500s, the Pecos people were forced into a series of difficult negotiations and compromises with the Spanish, with some reports suggesting that the Pecos leaders attempted to maintain their autonomy, while others resisted outright conversion. Could the pressures of colonization, along with the introduction of foreign diseases and new economic structures, have contributed to the eventual abandonment of Pecos Pueblo? Or did the Puebloans simply find new ways of adapting to the changing world around them? Yet, as compelling as the story of Spanish influence is, there are still many unanswered questions. Pecos Pueblo was far from the only indigenous settlement affected by Spanish arrival, yet its story is unique in many ways. Unlike other pueblos, which were eventually integrated into Spanish colonial life, Pecos Pueblo seems to have undergone a different fate. Why did the Pecos people abandon their impressive, well-established community and move to the nearby plains? What happened to the cultural knowledge and traditions that were so carefully preserved in the kivas and adobe walls of Pecos Pueblo? In addition to the impact of Spanish colonization, another theory suggests that the abandonment of Pecos Pueblo was tied to internal factors, namely, shifts in the Puebloan spiritual beliefs and social organization. Pecos Pueblo was once an important center for the Puebloan religion, and the kivas played a central role in the community's ceremonial life. Yet, there is evidence that by the time the site was abandoned, the traditional religious practices of the Pecos people had begun to change. Could these shifts in spirituality have led to a collapse in the cohesion of the community, prompting them to leave the city behind in search of a new beginning? The Puebloans were known for their deep spiritual connection to the land, and perhaps this sense of dislocation and spiritual upheaval is what ultimately drove the people of Pecos to leave. Equally puzzling is the mysterious nature of the site's architecture itself. While much of Pecos Pueblo follows the typical design principles of other Puebloan settlements, multi-storied adobe buildings arranged in a circular or rectangular pattern, there are elements of Pecos that stand apart from other sites. For example, the layout of the plaza area, the positioning of certain buildings, and even the choice of materials suggest that the people of Pecos were deeply connected to the land in a way that was uniquely their own. Could the specific arrangement of the buildings hold a hidden meaning, tied to astronomical or spiritual considerations that we have yet to fully understand? Could there be a cosmic connection, a link between the positioning of the structures and the movements of the stars, or the cycle of seasons? The mystery of Pecos Pueblo remains unsolved, and while much has been uncovered, much is still hidden beneath the earth. The sudden abandonment of the city, its strategic position as a center of trade and culture, and its deep spiritual connections to the land all point to a complex and intricate society. Yet, the reasons for its decline remain elusive. What drove the people of Pecos to leave behind their homes and their way of life? Was it the pressures of outside forces, the collapse of their social or spiritual systems, or something deeper, something we are still only beginning to uncover? As we stand on the edge of Pecos Pueblo, overlooking the vast, empty landscape, the silence is palpable. The once thriving city now lies in ruins, but the questions linger, unanswered. What secrets still lie buried beneath the mesa? What stories will the winds of the desert reveal in time? Only time and further exploration will tell. As the dusty winds of the American Southwest fade from view, our journey now leads us across the Mediterranean to the island of Sicily, an ancient land where history and myth intertwine in ways that continue to baffle archaeologists. Here, in the rugged interior of the island, lies the Necropolis of Pantalica, a site so ancient that it seems to whisper from the past, urging us to listen closely. Carved into the cliffs of the Anapo River Valley, Pantalica is not just a burial ground. It is a testament to a lost civilization, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur in strange and mysterious ways. The necropolis is as breathtaking as it is enigmatic. Hundreds of tombs, their entrances marked by narrow, weathered facades, dot the steep cliffs, arranged in neat rows that stretch across the rocky terrain. The tombs themselves are cut into the limestone rock, their deep, shadowy interiors offering no glimpse of what lies within. Some are simple, small chambers, while others are more elaborate, with intricate carvings and even niches designed to hold urns or relics. From a distance, the sheer scale of the site is staggering. An entire city of the dead, perched high above the valley floor, its burial chambers seemingly carved by the hand of a forgotten people. Pantalica's origins remain a subject of ongoing mystery. It is believed to have been in use from around 1200 BC to 500 BC, though the identity of its builders is still debated. Some historians believe that the tombs were created by the indigenous Sicilian population, possibly related to the ancient Sicans or Siculi. Others suggest that the necropolis may have been linked to the Greeks, who colonized parts of Sicily in the 8th century BC. The most widely accepted theory is that Pantalica was a sacred site for the indigenous people of Sicily, later incorporated into the broader cultural and political landscape of the Mediterranean. Yet, despite this long history, much about the people who built and used Pantalica remains unknown. The placement of the tombs is equally intriguing. They are not scattered haphazardly, but instead arranged in a highly organized manner, as if the site itself were carefully planned and designed. The tombs, which were likely used for multiple generations, seem to be positioned with an awareness of the surrounding landscape, facing towards the valley below, where the Anapo River winds its way through the rugged terrain. The positioning of the tombs raises questions about the symbolic significance of the site. Why were the dead placed in such a specific arrangement? Could it have had a spiritual or astronomical meaning, perhaps in alignment with celestial bodies or natural features of the landscape? Archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of artifacts at Pantalica, pottery, tools, and personal items, all of which speak to a culture that was deeply connected to the land and its rituals. Among the most fascinating finds are the skeletal remains themselves. Some of the bodies appear to have been laid to rest in a way that suggests elaborate funerary practices. In many cases, the bodies were positioned in the fetal position, a symbol of rebirth and the return to the earth. Yet, even these remains hold their own mysteries. Why were some tombs clearly reserved for high-status individuals, while others seemed to be for the common folk? Was there a division of social classes, or were the differences in burial practices linked to the spiritual beliefs of the time? In addition to the tombs, the site also contains a series of cave dwellings, their purpose still unclear. These caves, some of which are found deep within the rock face, appear to have been used for living, perhaps by the same people who created the tombs. What did these caves represent? Were they homes, ceremonial spaces, or something else entirely? Some have speculated that these dwellings were sacred spaces, used by priests or other religious figures. Others believe that they may have served as places of refuge, where people took shelter from invaders or natural disasters. Yet, despite these theories, no definitive answers have emerged, and the caves remain one of the most puzzling aspects of Pantalica. The mystery of Pantalica is compounded by the sheer number of unanswered questions surrounding the site. Why was the necropolis abandoned? What caused the people who once thrived here to leave their sacred burial ground behind? Some scholars believe that the decline of Pantalica was linked to the rise of Greek power on the island, as the Greek city-states began to exert their influence over Sicily. Could the indigenous population have been displaced, their sacred sites abandoned in the face of colonization? Others suggest that natural forces, such as flooding or drought, may have played a role in the decline of the settlement. Yet, no evidence has been found to suggest a single catastrophic event, leaving the question of why Pantalica was abandoned even more elusive. One of the more speculative theories surrounding Pantalica is that the site may have had a much deeper metaphysical purpose, perhaps a link to ancient beliefs about the afterlife or the cosmos. The placement of the tombs, the use of caves, and the specific arrangement of the dead all hint at a culture that saw death not as an end, but as part of a larger cosmic cycle. Could the people of Pantalica have been using the site as a form of astral alignment, connecting the living with the stars above and the ancestors below? Some have even suggested that Pantalica's design reflects a sophisticated understanding of astrology or celestial movements, potentially serving as an early form of observatory or ritual space for those who inhabited the island long before the Greeks arrived. There is also the possibility that Pantalica's tombs were not just places of burial, but centers of power and influence. Were the people who lived here part of a larger, powerful civilization that spanned the Mediterranean? Or were they simply one of many small, isolated cultures that developed independently, leaving behind only their tombs and artifacts as a silent legacy? The absence of written records leaves us to speculate, to piece together the fragments of a forgotten world based on the physical remnants they left behind. The Necropolis of Pantalica stands today as a quiet reminder of the past, its ancient tombs and caves still holding their secrets. The landscape has changed little since the time of the ancient inhabitants, with the same winds sweeping across the hills and the same river flowing below. But the mystery of Pantalica is far from resolved. What drove the people who built this sacred site to abandon it? What deeper connections to the cosmos, the land, or the afterlife might they have held? As we look upon the silent, weathered tombs and the strange cave dwellings, we are left with more questions than answers. The answers, perhaps, lie buried in the earth, hidden from view. Or perhaps they lie in the stars, waiting for a keen eye to decipher the ancient map that Pantalica may have been. Only time and further exploration may reveal the full truth. Until then, the necropolis remains a timeless enigma, its mysteries waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to look deeper. Of Georgia, a land steeped in legend and history. Here, nestled in the rocky hills of the eastern Caucasus, stands the ancient fortress of Uplistsikhe, a site that has borne witness to the rise and fall of civilizations, yet still guards its secrets, whispering tales of a past that is far more complex than we have yet understood. Uplistsikhe, which translates to the Lord's Fortress, is a sprawling ancient city carved into the very rock of a high hill overlooking the Metkvari River. The site's sheer size is awe-inspiring. Miles of intricate tunnels, halls, temples, and dwellings stretch across the landscape, etched into the sandstone cliffs with painstaking precision. From a distance, it looks almost as if the very mountain itself has been shaped into a fortified city, its walls and structures emerging naturally from the rock face. The view is as dramatic as the history that unfolds within it, a vast labyrinth of man-made and natural elements, blending seamlessly into the surrounding terrain. Uplistsikhe's origins are shrouded in mystery. The site is believed to date back to at least the early Iron Age, around the 12th century BC, though evidence suggests that it may have been in use long before that. Its strategic location along the ancient trade routes that connected east and west made it an important center for commerce, politics, and religion. But despite its significance in the ancient world, Uplistsikhe's true role remains unclear. Was it a royal stronghold, a religious site, or a center of economic power? Or was it something more, a sacred city built into the very bones of the earth, a place of profound spiritual and cultural meaning? As you walk through the remnants of Uplistsikhe, the sheer scale of its architecture is overwhelming. The site contains a series of structures, some functional, some ceremonial, all carved into the rock itself. Some areas resemble public spaces, large halls and courtyards that could have been used for gatherings or feasts. Others are smaller, more intimate spaces, such as homes and temples. The most striking feature of the fortress, however, is the vast network of tunnels that runs beneath it. Dark, narrow passages that twist and turn like a subterranean maze. What purpose did these tunnels serve? Were they escape routes, storage areas, or something more mysterious? Some archaeologists have suggested that they may have been part of a complex water management system, while others speculate that they could have been used for ritual or secretive purposes. Uplistsikhe's most famous structures are its rock-hewn temples, which suggest the site was also a religious center of considerable importance. The largest of these temples, known as the Upper Temple, contains a small altar carved into the stone, along with several niches that may have once held sacred objects. The presence of these religious features raises a number of intriguing questions. What gods or spirits were venerated here? Were these temples part of a broader religious network, or did they serve a unique spiritual function for the people of Uplistsikhe alone? And perhaps most puzzling of all, why were these temples carved so meticulously into the rock, rather than built with conventional materials? Was the site's connection to the earth itself part of its sacred significance? One of the most fascinating elements of Uplistsikhe is its hybrid nature, combining elements of both local and foreign cultures. Archaeological evidence points to the presence of both Greek and Persian influences at the site, suggesting that Uplistsikhe was a melting pot of cultures and traditions. During the reign of the ancient kingdom of Urartu in the 8th century BC, Uplistsikhe served as a major stronghold, and its architecture reflects the artistic and technological advances of the time. Yet, by the 6th century BC, the site began to take on Hellenistic features, including Greco-Roman style buildings and temples. What was the significance of these outside influences, and how did they shape the culture of Uplistsikhe? Could the site have served as a place of religious and political exchange, where different cultures and traditions collided and fused into something unique? The decline of Uplistsikhe is just as mysterious as its rise. The fortress flourished for centuries, but by the 10th century AD, it had begun to decline. Some historians attribute the fall of the city to invasions by the Arabs and later the Mongols, while others suggest that internal factors, such as economic decline or changes in political leadership, led to the abandonment of the site. But no matter the cause, the fact remains that Uplistsikhe was eventually deserted, its once thriving city of stone left to crumble under the weight of time and neglect. What remains of Uplistsikhe today is a shadow of its former self. The rock-hewn structures are worn by centuries of wind and rain, their once vibrant carvings faded and eroded. Yet, despite the ravages of time, the site still holds a powerful sense of mystery. The tunnels beneath the city, the rock temples, the strange hybrid architecture, all of these elements speak to a culture that was deeply connected to the land, the sky, and the divine. But so much of its story remains locked in silence. What drove the people of Uplistsikhe to carve such an intricate city into the cliffs? Why was such a monumental effort made to create a fortress and temple complex that, for all its grandeur, is now largely forgotten? What were the spiritual, political, or economic forces at play in this place, and how did they shape the rise and fall of such a unique society? Some scholars have posited that Uplistsikhe was more than just a city. It may have been a symbolic representation of the power and will of the people who built it, a monument to their connection with the earth and the heavens. Could the fortress itself have been a kind of cosmic expression, aligning with the stars, the landscape, or the cycles of the earth? The precise alignment of the structures and the seemingly intentional design of the city suggest that the builders of Uplistsikhe were keenly aware of the forces that shaped their world, both physical and spiritual. But these questions, like so many others, remain unanswered. What role did Uplistsikhe play in the greater context of ancient Georgia and the broader Mediterranean world? Was it simply a fortress? Or was it a spiritual center, a place where the divine and the earthly realms intertwined? What secrets still lie hidden in the tunnels and temples of this ancient fortress, waiting to be uncovered? Uplistsikhe stands as a quiet sentinel to a lost world, its carved walls and tunnels still holding the memories of a civilization long gone. The mysteries of the site are not just archaeological, they are philosophical and spiritual, inviting us to reflect on the ways in which ancient people understood their relationship to the world around them. And as we peer into the shadowed passages of Uplistsikhe, we are left with the same haunting question. What more might we discover, buried in the rock and dust, as we continue to unravel the secrets of this ancient fortress? As we leave behind the ancient stones of Uplistsikhe, our journey now takes us to the far north of Scotland, where the landscape, raw and untamed, holds the key to a forgotten chapter of history. Here, on the windswept shores of Orkney, rises the Broch of Gurness, an imposing structure that stands as both a marvel and a mystery. Built between 500 BC and 100 AD, this ancient fortification sits at the edge of the sea, its towering stone walls and winding passages a silent testament to the ingenuity of a people who once called this harsh, isolated land home. The Broch of Gurness is part of a wider phenomenon found across Scotland and the Northern Isles. The Broch, a round, dry stone tower that served both as a fort and a residence. These structures were once the homes of the Picts, a mysterious people who left behind little in the way of written records, making it difficult to fully understand their culture and way of life. As we approach the Broch of Gurness, the first thing that strikes you is its sheer size and commanding presence. The Broch rises from the ground like a silent sentinel, its thick stone walls still standing strong after more than 2,000 years of exposure to the elements. Even in its partially ruined state, the structure retains a certain majesty, an echo of the power and purpose it once held. But the mystery of Gurness goes beyond its imposing architecture. As we explore the site, we see that it is not just a single tower, but part of a larger complex of buildings and enclosures. Around the central broch are the remains of smaller houses, workshops, and courtyards, all surrounded by a formidable defensive wall. The broch itself, with its thick, layered walls, was designed to protect its inhabitants from both invaders and the harsh weather of the Orkney Islands. Its interior, though now empty, once housed a community that must have had a deep connection to the land and the sea. One of the most striking features of the Broch of Gurness is its sophisticated design. The broch is not simply a crude stone structure. It is a carefully planned fortification. The walls of the broch are double-layered, with a hollow core that would have been filled with earth to provide insulation and stability. Inside, a series of passageways and rooms are arranged in a way that suggests a highly organized society, one that was capable of advanced architectural planning. The broch was likely both a defensive stronghold and a place of residence, and its height would have provided a commanding view of the surrounding landscape, a vital advantage in a time of potential conflict. Yet, despite the intricacy of its design, the purpose of the broch remains a subject of debate. Was it purely a defensive structure, built to protect the inhabitants from raiders and rival tribes? Or did it serve other, more enigmatic purposes? Some archaeologists have suggested that the broch may have had a ritual or ceremonial role, acting as a symbolic center of power for the people who lived here. The Picts are known to have had complex spiritual beliefs, and some of the carved stones found at the site suggest that the broch may have been a focal point for ritual activities. Were the walls of the broch not just meant to protect the people, but to guard something more intangible, something tied to the spiritual and cultural identity of the community? As we move beyond the broch itself, we come across a series of smaller, interconnected buildings and courtyards. These structures were likely used for domestic purposes, homes, workshops, and storage spaces. However, There is something unusual about their layout. Many of the buildings are circular, similar to the Broch, and they are arranged in a way that seems to suggest a deliberate order, a planned community. Could it be that the inhabitants of Gurness were organized in a way that reflects a more complex social structure than we have previously imagined? The circular design of these buildings may indicate that the people of Gurness had a deep spiritual connection to the natural world, seeing the cycle of life and death as something inherently circular and cyclical. Was the Broch itself, with its round shape, a reflection of this worldview? The surrounding landscape only adds to the sense of mystery. The Broch of Gurness sits at the edge of the sea, a position that would have given its inhabitants access to vital resources like fish, seaweed, and trade routes. But the sea could also be a threat, with harsh storms and the constant possibility of naval raids. The site's location on a promontory, jutting out into the sea, suggests that the people of Gurness may have been highly strategic, using their location not only for defense, but also for its symbolic power. Was the Broch, in a way, a statement of control over the sea and the land, a visual representation of the strength and autonomy of its people? Despite the apparent significance of the site, much about the Broch of Gurness remains unknown. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Broch is the lack of clear evidence about the identity of its builders. While it is widely believed that the Picts constructed the Broch, the Picts themselves left behind few written records, and much of their culture remains shrouded in mystery. Were the people of Gurness part of a larger, connected Pictish society, or were they a more isolated group with their own distinct traditions and beliefs? What drove them to build such a formidable structure in such a remote location? Was it the constant threat of invasion, or was it something more? A desire to create a lasting monument to their power and spirituality? The abandonment of Gurness is just as mysterious as its construction. By the 7th century AD, the site had been largely abandoned, its buildings falling into ruin. Some believe that the Broch's decline may have been tied to the arrival of the Vikings, who began raiding and settling in the Orkney Islands around the 8th century. Others suggest that changes in the climate, economic shifts, or social changes may have contributed to the site's abandonment. Whatever the cause, the people of Gurness eventually left their fortress behind, leaving us with only the remnants of a once thriving community. The Broch of Gurness stands today as a silent enigma, its stone walls and passageways a testament to a lost civilization. The questions surrounding its purpose, its builders, and its eventual abandonment continue to linger. Was the Broch merely a practical structure, built for defense and habitation, or was it a spiritual center, a place of ritual and power? Did the people of Gurness see themselves as part of a larger cultural network, or were they isolated, building something entirely unique to their time and place? As we walk through the ruins, the wind howling across the island, we are left with more questions than answers. The Broch of Gurness, like so many ancient sites, holds its secrets close, daring us to look deeper, to understand more. And perhaps, in time, the answers will come. But for now, the mystery remains unsolved, waiting for the curious to continue the search. As we move forward from the towering remains of Gurness, we find ourselves on the windswept island of Menorca, situated in the heart of the Balearic Sea. It is here, amidst the ancient stone monuments scattered across this sun-kissed land, that we encounter one of the most enigmatic and enduring mysteries of the prehistoric Mediterranean, the Naveta des Tudons. This unique structure, perched on a hill overlooking the island's rugged landscape, is a striking example of a Naveta, a type of funerary building that has puzzled archaeologists and historians alike. Resembling an inverted ship with its curving stone walls and narrow entrance, the Naveta des Tudons is a tomb like no other, its form both haunting and beautiful, speaking of a time long past and a people whose ways of life remain mostly unknown. At first glance, the Naveta des Tudons appears almost like a monument to the sea. Its shape evokes the silhouette of an ancient vessel, perhaps a boat of the gods, or a symbolic passageway for the deceased. Standing about 4 meters tall and 12 meters long, the tomb's distinctive double-chambered structure suggests a level of architectural sophistication that, for its time, is remarkable. The outer walls, made of large, roughly hewn limestone blocks, curve inward, creating a unique, beehive-like shape that has inspired much speculation. What was the purpose of this unusual design, and why was it so important to the people who built it? Archaeologists believe that the Naveta des Tudons dates back to around 1000 BC, a time when Menorca, like much of the Mediterranean, was populated by diverse cultures, perhaps a fusion of indigenous islanders and early Mediterranean traders. The Naveta tombs, characteristic of the prehistoric culture known as the Taliatic civilization, were built for communal use. But this particular tomb stands out because of its size and craftsmanship. Unlike many other sites on the island, the Naveta des Tudons is remarkably well preserved, providing us with a window into a culture that left behind no written records. The people who constructed it are often thought to have been ancestors of the later Taliatic people, who built more famous structures like the taliots, mysterious stone towers that dot Menorca and Majorca. But even these towering monuments offer few clues as to the exact nature of the people who created them. Inside the Naveta, archaeologists have uncovered a large number of human remains, suggesting that this was indeed a burial site. The bones found within the tomb seem to have been placed in layers, indicating the site was used for multiple generations. The dead were likely laid to rest in a crouched position, a practice common across much of prehistoric Europe. It is thought that these bodies were not placed immediately after death, but rather were left for a time before being deposited into the tomb, either after undergoing rituals or decay. What makes the tomb even more intriguing is the absence of any known inscription or marker, leading to a flood of questions. Who were the people buried here? And what significance did this specific tomb hold? The lack of a distinct burial chamber for individuals suggests that the community practiced collective burial, perhaps to signify the connection between the living and the dead, or to reinforce the unity of a social group. But beyond the basic facts of its design and use, the Naveta des Tudons offers more questions than answers. For instance, what is the meaning behind its boat-like form? Was it purely functional, intended to serve as a highly practical structure for protecting the dead, or was there a deeper symbolic reason for its shape? Some scholars speculate that the Naveta could represent a vessel for the soul, designed to carry the deceased across the waters of death into the afterlife. This idea aligns with many cultures around the world that believed in the spiritual importance of boats, both as a means of transportation in the living world and as a vessel for the spirit in the afterlife. In addition to its physical design, the construction of the tomb raises intriguing questions about the society that built it. The sheer effort and resources required to construct such a monumental structure point to a sophisticated, organized society. How did the people of Menorca, who, by all accounts, lived in relatively small, decentralized communities, coordinate such a large-scale project? Was the Naveta des Tudons a structure used by one powerful family, or was it the work of an entire community? And was this tomb intended to honor a specific individual, or did it serve as a symbol for the collective identity of the people buried there? Interestingly, the Taliatic people of Menorca were known to engage in complex trade networks with the surrounding Mediterranean civilizations. Could the construction of the Naveta have been influenced by external cultures, perhaps those of the Phoenicians or other seafaring peoples who moved between the coasts of North Africa, the Mediterranean islands, and the southern reaches of Europe? The island of Menorca was in a prime position to serve as a hub for maritime trade, and it is possible that the design of the Naveta des Tudons reflects this cultural exchange. The boat-like structure could also be an early reflection of this maritime influence, though it remains unclear whether the idea of boats as spiritual vessels came from indigenous beliefs or was adopted from external sources. The location of the Naveta des Tudons is another point of intrigue. Situated on a hill, with commanding views of the surrounding landscape, the tomb may have had a strategic, ritual, or symbolic function. Was it placed here for practical reasons, perhaps as a lookout point, or was the location chosen for its sacred significance? The idea that ancient cultures often selected places of great natural beauty or power for burial sites is common in many ancient traditions, and it's not hard to imagine that the people who built the Naveta saw something uniquely powerful about this site. Perhaps a connection to the cycles of nature, the seasons, or the sea itself. Yet, for all the knowledge we've gained about the Naveta des Tudons, there remains a sense that much of its purpose remains hidden, locked away beneath the stones and bones of the past. Why was such an unusual, complex structure built for the dead? What specific beliefs did the people of Menorca hold about death, the afterlife, and the cosmos? And why, after thousands of years, does the Naveta still stand in the same place, steadfast against the passage of time? The questions left by the Naveta des Tudons are, in some ways, more profound than the answers. The tomb itself, silent and ancient, invites us to wonder about the lives of those who built it, and about the mysteries they left behind. Could the keys to understanding this ancient burial place still be waiting to be uncovered, buried beneath the surface of the land, or hidden in the whispers of the wind that sweeps across Menorca's hills? Like so many ancient monuments, the Naveta des Tudons remains a portal to a distant world, a world whose secrets, though tantalizing, are far from fully revealed. As we step away from the ancient mysteries of Menorca and journey across the vast expanses of time and space, we find ourselves in the heart of Mesoamerica, where one of the most enigmatic structures of the pre-Columbian world waits quietly beneath the sun. Here, just south of modern-day Mexico City, lies the Cuicuilco Circular Pyramid, a site that holds within its weathered stones a history that is both ancient and shrouded in uncertainty. The pyramid is an architectural wonder unlike any other in the region. Unlike the massive step pyramids of Teotihuacan or the grand temples of Chichen Itza, the Cuicuilco Pyramid is defined by its circular shape, its curving sides rising toward the sky like a great stone bowl, a perfect circle set against the backdrop of the Mexican landscape. With a diameter of over 50 meters and a height of 17 meters, the pyramid's proportions seem almost organic, as though it grew from the land itself rather than being constructed by human hands. From a distance, its circular form contrasts dramatically with the more angular, structured pyramids that dominate Mesoamerican architecture. The pyramid structure is composed of a series of concentric rings, each one slightly smaller than the last, forming a gradual slope that tapers toward the summit. This design is unusual in Mesoamerican pyramid construction, where squared-off bases and steep steps were more common. The Cuicuilco pyramid's circular design has led some scholars to suggest that it could have had ritualistic significance, perhaps representing the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. The idea of cycles, both cosmic and terrestrial, was central to many Mesoamerican cultures, but the exact meaning behind this pyramid's form remains speculative. The site of Cuicuilco itself is equally intriguing. Dating back to around 800 BC, it predates many of the region's more well-known civilizations, including the Aztecs and the Maya. The pyramid was part of a larger city, one of the most important urban centers of pre-classic Mesoamerica. At its height, Cuicuilco was a thriving settlement, with an advanced infrastructure, including a complex network of roads, reservoirs, and canals. Its residents were skilled farmers and traders, engaging in commerce with neighboring regions. However, the true purpose of Cuicuilco remains a mystery. Was this pyramid a mere burial site, or was it a temple dedicated to the gods? Was it a place for astronomical observation, built to align with the stars and the cycles of the sun? Or was it a symbolic center, perhaps designed to represent the cyclical nature of the cosmos itself, as some have theorized? These questions are compounded by the fact that Cuicuilco's history remains largely unrecorded. Its rise, its peak, and its eventual decline are all veiled in silence. The most striking element of Cuicuilco's mystery, however, lies in its sudden abandonment. By the 7th century BC, Cuicuilco had been largely deserted. Archaeologists have long puzzled over the cause of the city's downfall. Some believe that a catastrophic eruption from the nearby Sitla volcano, which buried much of the area in layers of volcanic ash, forced the inhabitants to abandon their city and their pyramid. But could the volcanic eruption have been the sole reason for their departure, or was there more to the story? In the centuries that followed, the area was forgotten, left to the ravages of time, until its rediscovery in the 20th century. Even today, the pyramid's ruins lie quietly beneath the earth, its circular form partially obscured by the passage of time and the shifting soil. Despite extensive excavation efforts, much about the site remains unclear. The absence of written records means that we are left to piece together its story through fragments of artifacts, architectural remnants, and the faint traces of a once thriving city. One of the more speculative theories surrounding Cuicuilco is its possible connection to other ancient cultures. The circular shape of the pyramid is unlike anything found in other Mesoamerican sites, leading some to question whether it might be a reflection of influences from far outside the region. Could there have been contact between the early Mesoamerican peoples and distant cultures, perhaps from the Mediterranean or even further afield? Some have suggested that the circular pyramid might be a reflection of such far-flung influences, though there is no definitive evidence to support this idea. Could it be that Cuicuilco was a place of cultural exchange, where the ideas and practices of diverse civilizations converged? Another theory revolves around the possibility that Cuicuilco was more than just a city. It could have been a religious center of profound significance. The circular form of the pyramid is highly symbolic, and its alignment with celestial bodies could point to an advanced understanding of astronomy. Some scholars suggest that the people of Cuicuilco may have used the pyramid for ritual observances tied to the sun, the stars, or even the movement of the planets. The architecture of the pyramid, with its concentric rings, might have been designed to represent cosmic order, while the city itself could have functioned as a microcosm of the universe. But how much of this is conjecture, and how much reflects the true beliefs of those who built the pyramid? What is most perplexing, however, is the sheer lack of definitive information about the people of Cuicuilco. Who were they, and what motivated them to build such an extraordinary structure? While their culture was undeniably advanced, with evidence of metallurgy, pottery, and agriculture, their societal organization remains elusive. Did they have a centralized leadership, or was power shared among multiple groups? Was Cuicuilco a reflection of a highly hierarchical society, or one that was more egalitarian in nature? The abandonment of the city, too, raises unsettling questions. While the eruption of the Sitla volcano is often cited as the primary cause for the fall of Cuicuilco, we must ask, could there have been other, more profound factors at play? Was there internal strife, social upheaval, or perhaps even religious or political turmoil that led to its sudden and unexplained decline? The fact that the pyramid and surrounding structures were abandoned so abruptly suggests that there may have been an event of such magnitude that it shattered the foundation of the society. Or perhaps, in the face of such a catastrophic disaster, the people of Cuicuilco chose to abandon their sacred spaces altogether, leaving the pyramid to slowly erode with the passage of time. As we stand before the Cuicuilco circular pyramid, gazing at its weathered stones and quiet grandeur, we are reminded of how much remains beyond our understanding. The pyramid speaks not only of the ingenuity of its creators, but also of the enduring mystery of their culture, their beliefs, and the world they inhabited. While the facts about Cuicuilco's rise, its purpose, and its fall may never be fully known, it serves as a powerful reminder of the complexity and depth of ancient civilizations whose stories, though fragmented, continue to resonate through the ages. The questions that surround Cuicuilco are both profound and haunting. What did this circular pyramid mean to its creators, and why was it abandoned so suddenly? What can its design teach us about the people who built it? And what secrets, if any, might still lie hidden beneath the ruins, waiting to be uncovered? These mysteries remain just beyond our reach, inviting us to peer into the past with curiosity, wonder, and perhaps a sense of awe at the vastness of human history yet to be revealed. As the sun dips below the horizon and the golden light of dusk bathes the landscape in a soft glow, we find ourselves in the quiet, rolling hills of southern Portugal, where an ancient mystery lies waiting in the earth. Here, in the region of Évora, stands the dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro, a megalithic tomb that has endured for millennia, its massive stones standing as silent witnesses to a long-forgotten world. This monumental structure is one of the largest and most impressive of its kind in the Iberian Peninsula. At first glance, it may appear as little more than a pile of stones, but as you draw closer, you begin to see the true scale and sophistication of its design. The dolmen is composed of a series of enormous granite slabs, each one carefully positioned to form a passageway leading to a chamber, where the remains of the dead were once laid to rest. The burial mound that once covered the structure has eroded over time, revealing the skeletal form of the dolmen, but even in its weathered state, the sheer size of the stones is awe-inspiring. Some of the largest of these stones weigh as much as 20 tons, and it is still unclear exactly how the builders of the dolmen were able to transport and position such massive blocks of stone with the technology available to them at the time. The dolmen of Anta Grande do Zambujeiro was likely constructed around 6000 BC, during the late Neolithic period, a time when humans were transitioning from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to settled farming communities. This transition marked a profound shift in human history, as people began to form permanent settlements and develop complex social structures. The dolmen was one of many built during this time, part of a larger tradition of megalithic burial sites found throughout Europe. Yet, unlike many other dolmens, the Anta Grande do Zambujeiro is particularly striking because of its sheer scale and the precision with which it was constructed. The tomb itself is made up of a large rectangular chamber, which is framed by an impressive series of vertical stones that form a corridor or passageway leading to the main chamber. The passage is aligned in such a way that it faces the rising sun, suggesting that the builders of the dolmen may have had a deep understanding of celestial movements, perhaps using the structure for some form of astronomical observation or ritual. The arrangement of the stones also speaks to a high degree of architectural sophistication. It's clear that the dolmen wasn't just a simple burial site. It was a monumental structure, built to reflect the power and beliefs of the society that created it. What makes the dolmen even more intriguing is its connection to the surrounding landscape. The site is located in a particularly scenic area of the Alentejo region, where rolling hills stretch out beneath a vast, open sky. The builders of the dolmen likely chose this spot for its visibility, its relationship to the natural world, and perhaps its proximity to water sources or other sacred locations. Was the dolmen a gateway to the afterlife, a portal through which the souls of the deceased passed into another world? The alignment with the sun suggests that the builders had a complex understanding of the cycles of nature and the cosmos. Some researchers believe that the dolmen could have been used as part of a larger ritualistic or ceremonial complex, with the tomb at its center. Was this a place where the living and the dead coexisted? A sacred space where the boundary between the two realms was blurred? However, despite its impressive scale and the obvious care taken in its construction, the dolmen of Grande do Zambujeiro remains shrouded in mystery. We know little about the people who built it, their beliefs, their social structures, or even their day-to-day lives. The dolmen is one of many similar structures scattered across southern Portugal and western Spain, but the absence of written records from this time means that we can only speculate about the purpose and meaning of these monuments. Who were the people who constructed this tomb, and what drove them to create such a monumental burial site? Was it a place reserved for the elite, or was it a communal structure serving the needs of a larger society? Was it purely a burial site, or did it also serve as a ceremonial space, perhaps where rituals and sacrifices were carried out? The lack of written evidence leaves room for a variety of theories. Some archaeologists believe that the dolmen was simply a functional burial tomb used by a farming community to honor their dead. The passageway leading into the chamber could symbolize the journey into the afterlife, with the entrance representing the threshold between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Others, however, believe that the dolmen may have had a more complex function. Some suggest that it could have been part of a larger network of ritual sites, linked by a shared cosmology and belief system. The size and prominence of the dolmen, coupled with its apparent alignment with the sun, suggest that it may have had astronomical or symbolic significance beyond its role as a burial site. One intriguing theory is that the dolmen was part of an ancient system of timekeeping or astronomical observation. The alignment of the passageway with the rising sun could indicate that the structure was used to mark specific times of the year, such as the solstices or equinoxes, which were of great importance to many ancient cultures. Was the dolmen a tool for marking the changing seasons, a way to track the passage of time and the cycles of nature? Or was it a more spiritual observance, a way to align the human world with the movements of the heavens? Some fringe theories suggest that the dolmen might have been more than just a burial site or an astronomical observatory. It could have been an early example of sacred geometry, or even a connection to more advanced knowledge that has been lost to history. Was there a hidden, deeper meaning to the precise arrangement of the stones, one that reflected a cosmic order beyond the comprehension of modern science? Could it be that the builders of the dolmen had knowledge of astronomy or mathematics that we have yet to fully understand? Perhaps the most enigmatic aspect of the dolmen of Grande do Zambujeiro is its relationship to the land around it. The dolmen is part of a larger megalithic landscape, dotted with other burial mounds and standing stones. These structures form a kind of web of sacred sites, and some researchers suggest that they were part of a larger ritualistic landscape where the dead were honored and the forces of nature were revered. Was the dolmen a solitary monument, or was it part of a much larger religious or social network? How did the people of this ancient world view their connection to the earth, the heavens, and the dead? As we stand before the dolmen of Grande do Zambujeiro, it is difficult not to be struck by the sense of mystery that surrounds it. The silence of the site, the weathered stones, and the vast expanse of land stretching out before us all evoke a sense of timelessness. The dolmen's meaning remains elusive, its purpose lost to the sands of time. Yet, the questions it raises about the people who built it, their beliefs, their understanding of the cosmos, continue to intrigue and inspire us. What was the true purpose of the dolmen of Grande do Zambujeiro? Was it a simple burial tomb, or was it a symbol of something deeper, something more mysterious? The stones hold their secrets, and perhaps they always will. But as we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that the past is never fully understood. It is a landscape of shadows, where the outlines of ancient truths are only faintly visible, waiting for us to uncover them. And in the end, the mystery of the dolmen may be as much about the questions it raises as the answers it might one day reveal. As we move deeper into the heart of ancient mysteries, we find ourselves once again standing at the edge of a forgotten world, where the forces of nature, human ingenuity, and time have left behind a legacy we still struggle to comprehend. Located in the serene hills of Sardinia, Italy, the Monte Bar archaeological site offers yet another glimpse into a distant past, one that remains tantalizingly beyond our full grasp. Here, among the rugged landscape, a megalithic complex lies hidden in plain sight, surrounded by ancient trees and sweeping vistas, its stones weathered by centuries of wind, rain, and silence. The site, which dates back to the Neolithic era, is marked by a series of stone structures that appear both familiar and utterly alien. Large granite slabs, arranged in what appears to be a deliberate pattern, form the remains of what many believe to be a nurag, a type of ancient stone tower found throughout Sardinia. These structures, built by a people whose identity and language remain elusive, represent one of the most enduring enigmas of Mediterranean prehistory. The purpose of the nuragas, whether they served as fortresses, religious centers, or some other function, remains a subject of intense debate among archaeologists and historians. Monte Bar, however, is not just another example of the iconic nurag. Unlike other sites, this one stands apart in its scale and complexity. At first glance, the site might appear relatively simple, just a few large stones arranged in a circular formation. But as you approach the site, a more intricate picture begins to emerge. The stonework at Monte Bar is unlike anything else in the region. It's more refined, more deliberate. The stones are shaped with an almost uncanny precision, as if the builders possessed not only advanced engineering knowledge but also an artistic sensibility. This leads us to ask, was Monte Bar just a functional structure, or did it serve a more profound, symbolic purpose? The site consists of several distinct features: towering megalithic stones that form the remnants of walls and towers, smaller stones that appear to mark pathways or ceremonial routes, and, most intriguing of all, a series of subterranean chambers that seem to delve deep into the earth. These chambers, some of which have been uncovered and partially excavated, give us a sense of the complexity of the site. They are not the simple burial chambers we might expect from early Stone Age tombs, but rather elaborate spaces, sometimes interconnected by narrow passageways, suggesting that the people who built Monte Bar were not only adept stonemasons, but also architects with a grand vision for their site. The main structure at Monte Bar is thought to have been a nurag, but there is something distinctly unique about the site that sets it apart from other Sardinian nurags. While many of the island's megalithic towers are built with large, roughly hewn stones stacked together without mortar, the stones at Monte Bar are carefully shaped, with smooth edges that fit together almost perfectly. The alignment of these stones, particularly in relation to the surrounding landscape and the positions of celestial bodies, suggests a deep understanding of astronomy. Could this site have been used for ritualistic purposes, perhaps aligned with the solstices or equinoxes? And if so, how much knowledge did the builders of Monte Bar possess about the stars and the cosmos? The site's strategic position also raises intriguing questions. Monte Bar sits atop a hill, providing a commanding view of the surrounding valley. This vantage point would have made it an ideal location for surveillance or defense, and indeed, many scholars have speculated that the nurag was constructed as a fortress to protect the surrounding community. But as with many ancient sites, the more we learn, the more questions arise. Was Monte Bar simply a defensive structure, or was there something more to its design and location? Could it have had a spiritual or symbolic significance, designed to reflect a deeper understanding of the land, the sky, and the relationship between the two? One of the most striking features of Monte Bar, however, is the absence of definitive historical records. The Nuragic civilization, which is thought to have created the site, left no written language, and so much of their culture remains shrouded in mystery. What we know of them comes from the study of their ruins, their artifacts, and the occasional fragmentary inscriptions found on pottery or other items. These clues paint a picture of a people who were deeply attuned to the rhythms of nature and who constructed monumental buildings in ways that suggest both advanced engineering and complex social organization. Yet, beyond these tantalizing glimpses, we are left to wonder. Who were the builders of Monte Bar? What were their beliefs, their customs, their way of life? Theories abound about the nature of the Nuragic people. Some researchers believe that they were part of a larger Mediterranean culture, perhaps even connected to other ancient civilizations, such as those in the Near East. The sophistication of their stonework, their use of megaliths, and their complex social structures suggest that they may have had contact with or been influenced by far-flung cultures. But what kind of society built Monte Bar? Was it a highly centralized one, where rulers and priests commanded great power over the masses? Or was it a more egalitarian society, with a network of independent villages and communities linked by shared beliefs and practices? Perhaps one of the most perplexing aspects of Monte Bar and of the entire Nuragic civilization is the question of why such monumental structures were built in the first place. The sheer scale of these constructions suggests that they were of great importance, but what purpose did they serve? Were they defensive strongholds built to withstand external threats, or were they symbolic representations of power and identity meant to demonstrate the prowess of their builders to both the living and the dead? Some archaeologists have proposed that the Nuragis served as centers of ritual or religious activity, but the lack of written records leaves us with only speculation. Was Monte Bar a place of worship, a sacred space where the community gathered to honor their gods or the forces of nature? Or did it serve as a social or political center where decisions were made and alliances forged? Adding to the mystery is the question of the dolmens and other megalithic tombs that dot the landscape around Monte Bar. These tombs, which are often found in close proximity to Nuragis, suggest that burial rituals were an important part of Nuragic society. The question remains, was there a direct connection between the funerary practices and the construction of these monumental structures? Could the people who built the Nuragis also have believed in an afterlife? Or were these tombs simply the final resting places of the dead, without any spiritual significance? One of the more speculative theories suggests that Monte Bar, like some other Nuragic sites, may have been part of a larger network of sacred sites that were aligned with astronomical events. Could the position of the structure, with its strategic placement atop a hill and its possible alignment with the stars, have been a deliberate attempt to link the human world with the cosmos? Some have even speculated that these ancient peoples might have had a knowledge of astronomy far more advanced than previously thought, capable of tracking celestial events with precision. The possibility that Monte Bar was a site of such astronomical significance remains one of the most captivating elements of the mystery surrounding it. As we stand before the weathered stones of Monte Bar, gazing at the intricate patterns and the breathtaking landscape that stretches out before us, we are reminded of how much of the ancient world remains hidden from view. The questions surrounding this site, its purpose, its builders, and its meaning, continue to elude us, inviting further investigation. Were the Nuragic people simply skilled stonemasons, or did they possess knowledge and beliefs that have been lost to time? What can we learn from the mysteries of Monte Bar, and what secrets might still lie buried beneath the soil? In the end, Monte Bar remains as enigmatic as it is awe-inspiring, a monument to a long-lost civilization whose answers we may never fully uncover. But the questions it raises, the sense of wonder it inspires, and the tantalizing clues it offers will continue to captivate all who stand before it. As we shift our focus to the windswept plains of Armenia, we encounter one of the most mysterious and enigmatic sites of ancient times, Karahunge, sometimes referred to as the Armenian Stonehenge. This ancient megalithic complex, nestled in the Ararat Valley, stands as a silent testament to a long-lost civilization that left behind no written records. The site is a collection of standing stones, arranged in an intricate pattern that still baffles modern archaeologists and historians alike. Its true purpose, its creators, and the significance of its alignment with the heavens remain a puzzle that has yet to be fully solved. Karahunge is situated at an altitude of over 1,700 meters, surrounded by rugged mountain ranges, offering a dramatic and awe-inspiring backdrop. The landscape here is stark and hauntingly beautiful, with sweeping views of the surrounding valley, where the ancient city of Artashat once stood. The site itself consists of over 200 megaliths, most of which are arranged in a circular formation. These stones vary in size, with the largest towering over 3 meters tall, and their surfaces are often decorated with mysterious carvings, adding to the site's allure. But what makes Karahunge particularly intriguing are the many holes drilled into the stones. These holes, about 200 of them, are scattered throughout the site, and their purpose has sparked countless theories. The holes in the stones are not random. They are deliberate and precise, drilled with remarkable skill. Some researchers suggest that they were used as part of an early form of astronomical observatory, possibly to track the movements of the stars or the moon. The alignment of the stones, many of which are positioned to face specific directions, seems to support this theory. Could this ancient site have been used to mark significant celestial events, such as the solstices or lunar eclipses? Did the people of Karahunge possess an advanced understanding of astronomy, perhaps even predating other known ancient observatories like Stonehenge? One of the most compelling features of Karahunge is its connection to the stars. The arrangement of the stones, combined with the drilled holes, leads some researchers to believe that the site may have functioned as an early astronomical calendar, with the stones used to track the movements of celestial bodies. The orientation of the stones suggests a possible alignment with key astronomical phenomena, and some experts have posited that the holes might have been used to view specific stars or constellations at certain times of the year. Could the site have served as a means of predicting seasonal changes or marking important ritualistic moments in the lives of the ancient people who built it? Yet, despite these intriguing theories, no definitive answer has emerged. Mainstream scholars argue that the site may have had a more symbolic or ritualistic function rather than a purely scientific one. The absence of clear evidence linking the stones to a specific culture or civilization further complicates our understanding of Karahunge's purpose. Was this a sacred site, used by a lost people to connect with the divine, or was it part of a more practical, astronomical observatory? And if it was an observatory, how much knowledge did its builders possess? What was their understanding of the cosmos, and how did they integrate this understanding into their daily lives? The mystery of Karahunge deepens when we consider the absence of any written records. Unlike other ancient sites, such as the Sumerian cities or the Egyptian pyramids, where inscriptions and texts provide some insight into the beliefs and practices of their creators, Karahunge offers no such clues. The people who built Karahunge left behind no scrolls, no carvings with detailed explanations, no monuments bearing the names of kings or gods. This leaves us to rely on the physical remnants of the site itself to tell the story, a task that is fraught with difficulty, as the passage of time has weathered many of the stones, obscuring their original meaning. There are, however, tantalizing fragments of evidence that hint at the significance of Karahunge. Some researchers have pointed to the presence of similar megalithic structures throughout the Caucasus region, suggesting that Karahunge may have been part of a larger cultural network, perhaps linked to other ancient observatories or ritual sites. But the exact nature of these connections remains unclear. Were the builders of Karahunge part of a larger, previously unknown civilization, or were they an isolated people, working in isolation and developing their own unique understanding of the stars? Theories abound, but there is still no consensus. Some have suggested that Karahunge could be linked to the ancient kingdom of Urartu, which flourished in the region between the 9th and 6th centuries BC. Others have proposed that the site predates Urartu, dating back to the early Bronze Age, or even earlier. If Karahunge was indeed built before the rise of Urartu, this would suggest that the people who constructed it had a profound understanding of the cosmos, perhaps even surpassing the knowledge of later civilizations in the region. As we explore the possibility of an ancient astronomical observatory, we are left with a host of compelling questions. Did the builders of Karahunge possess knowledge of the stars that was lost to later generations? Could they have observed and tracked celestial phenomena with remarkable precision, far beyond what we would expect from such an early civilization? If so, how did they acquire this knowledge? Did they have access to tools or techniques that have since been forgotten? Or was their understanding of the stars purely intuitive, passed down through generations of careful observation? The drilled holes in the stones also invite speculation about the role of astronomy in the spiritual or ritualistic life of the ancient people of Karahunge. Were the stones arranged not only for practical purposes, such as tracking the stars, but also for symbolic or religious reasons? Many ancient cultures believed that the movements of the stars and planets had profound implications for human life, dictating the best times for planting crops, conducting rituals, or even making important decisions. Could Karahunge have served as a kind of celestial temple, a place where the people gathered to perform rites dedicated to the heavens? And if so, how did the alignment of the stones reflect their cosmological beliefs? Beyond astronomy, some fringe theories suggest that Karahunge could be a site with more esoteric or metaphysical significance. The drilled holes, some speculate, may have been used for purposes beyond observation. Could they have been portals, gateways between the earthly and the divine? Or were the holes symbolic representations of stars themselves, linking the earthbound with the heavens? Was the act of drilling these holes an attempt to bring the cosmic order down to earth, aligning human life with the celestial movements above? The more we explore Karahunge, the more the site seems to resist easy explanation. The sheer complexity of its design, combined with its mysterious alignment with the stars, suggests a level of knowledge and sophistication that we are only beginning to understand. Yet, despite the many theories that have emerged over the years, no single answer has emerged to explain its true purpose. And perhaps that's part of the allure of Karahunge. Its secrets remain locked away, awaiting discovery by future generations. Standing at the site today, the weathered stones seem to speak in silence, their purpose still hidden from view. Could we be on the verge of unlocking their mysteries? Or will Karahunge remain an enigma, a place where the lines between the earthly and the celestial blur into one? As we continue to study and uncover the secrets of the past, we are reminded that some mysteries may never fully be understood. They exist not to be solved, but to provoke us, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to look to the stars with awe and curiosity. What knowledge might still lie hidden in the stones of Karahunge, waiting for us to unlock it? As we continue our journey through ancient sites that defy our understanding of history, we now turn our attention to a burial site tucked away in the misty hills of Wales, a site whose purpose and meaning remain shrouded in mystery. Tinkinswood Burial Chamber. Situated near the village of St. Nicholas, just outside Cardiff, this Neolithic monument is one of the most enigmatic megalithic structures in the British Isles. Though it may not be as famous as Stonehenge or Avebury, Tinkinswood's massive stones and the secrets they might hold are just as compelling. The chamber itself is a monumental structure, a megalithic tomb that dates back to around 6,000 years ago, roughly 4000 BC. It consists of a large capstone, one of the heaviest in Europe, resting on a set of vertical stones. These stones are arranged in a formation that creates a striking, almost otherworldly appearance. Standing at over 4 meters tall, The capstone alone weighs an astounding 40 tons, a feat of engineering that seems almost inconceivable for a society that left no written record. How did the builders of Tinkinswood manage to quarry, transport, and position such massive stones with the rudimentary tools they had available? When viewed in the soft Welsh light, with the nearby rolling hills in the background, Tinkinswood seems to pulse with the weight of its history. The monument is part of a much larger network of megalithic tombs scattered across the landscape of Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, built by a society whose motives are still the subject of much speculation. Yet, Tinkinswood stands apart, not only because of its scale and the size of its capstone, but also due to the mystery that surrounds it. Its very location, perched as it is on a low hill, suggests that the site may have been chosen with specific, perhaps symbolic, intent. The site's alignment, though subtle, appears to suggest an awareness of the changing seasons, which raises the question, was Tinkinswood used to mark celestial events, like solstices or equinoxes, as so many other megalithic structures were? Tinkinswood, like many other burial chambers, was constructed as a passage tomb, a type of structure designed for the burial of the dead. Yet, unlike the more common passage tombs of Ireland, the Tinkinswood chamber is more open, its design both simple and imposing. Inside the chamber, the skeletal remains of the deceased would have once been placed, perhaps accompanied by offerings or objects meant for the afterlife. Archaeological digs have uncovered human remains, pottery, and tools, but much of what would have originally adorned this sacred site has long since vanished, leaving only the stone framework and the haunting silhouette of the structure. But it is not only the physical aspects of the tomb that intrigue archaeologists. It is the mystery of its purpose and the people who built it. Who were the individuals who constructed such an enormous monument? What beliefs and rituals did they associate with death and the afterlife? How did they view their relationship with the earth and the cosmos? These are the questions that continue to elude definitive answers. Though Tinkinswood is clearly a burial site, the size and structure of the monument suggest that it was also intended to serve a larger social or ritualistic purpose. The sheer effort involved in constructing the chamber hints at a well-organized society, one that had the means and motivation to gather and move large stones over long distances. The work involved in its creation would have required cooperation and labor on an extraordinary scale, suggesting that the builders of Tinkinswood were part of a tightly knit community, one bound by shared religious or cultural beliefs. But what were those beliefs? Some researchers propose that the tomb may have had a role in ancestor worship or the veneration of the dead. This theory is supported by the positioning of the burial chamber itself, which appears to be carefully aligned with natural features in the landscape. Could Tinkinswood have been a site for rituals designed to connect the living with the spirits of the dead? Perhaps the chamber's location atop a small hill was meant to establish a connection between the human world and the divine, bridging the gap between life and death, between the earth and the heavens. The mysterious silence of the tomb now seems to call out for an answer, as though it is waiting for us to understand what its creators once hoped to achieve. Yet the specifics of these rituals remain elusive. There is no definitive evidence about what kind of ceremonies were performed within Tinkinswood's dark stone walls. Some have suggested that the site may have been used for seasonal festivals, aligning with the movement of the sun, and marking the changing of the seasons as a way to honor the cycles of life and death. Could Tinkinswood have been a place of spiritual connection, where the living sought guidance from the ancestors, or perhaps a place where people prepared the dead for the journey into the afterlife? The theories about the purpose of Tinkinswood's design often lean heavily on speculation, but what is more certain is that this site represents a remarkable achievement in early human history. The level of planning and the sheer scale of the monument suggest that the people who built it were highly skilled in their knowledge of stonework, astronomy, and geometry, knowledge that has long since been lost to history. How did they acquire this expertise? What motivated them to build something so grand, and what did it mean to them to bury their dead within such an imposing structure? Adding another layer of mystery are the similarities between Tinkinswood and other megalithic structures found throughout Europe, including the more famous tombs of the British Isles. Could Tinkinswood have been part of a larger network of burial sites, tied to a culture that spanned much of Western Europe? Some researchers have suggested that these megalithic cultures were interconnected, sharing both ideas and architectural knowledge. But was Tinkinswood part of such a network, or was it an isolated effort by a specific group of people in Wales? What makes Tinkinswood truly fascinating is its very mystery. There is no written record that tells us who built it, why it was built, or what it meant to those who created it. It stands today as a silent witness to a long-lost society, one whose beliefs and practices remain unknown. And while much has been speculated about the site, no one can say for certain what it truly represents. The carvings on the stones, the precise alignment, and the size of the chamber all suggest that Tinkinswood had deep meaning, whether as a spiritual center, a place of burial, or a site for celestial observation. But what remains is the question: why? Why did these ancient builders invest so much time and effort into the creation of such a monumental structure? And what is it that we, in our modern world, still fail to understand about their relationship with the earth and the heavens? Standing before the Tinkinswood burial chamber, the weight of time feels almost tangible, the unanswered questions hanging in the air like the dense fog that often envelops the hills. What secrets still lie hidden beneath the stone? What truths might still be waiting to be uncovered, perhaps in the smallest of carvings or in the alignment of the stones themselves? As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that some mysteries, whether buried beneath the earth or etched into the very stones that surround us, are not meant to be solved. Instead, they serve to provoke us, to lead us deeper into the past, and to challenge our understanding of what ancient civilizations were capable of. The mystery of Tinkinswood remains, inviting us to look at the stones, the land, and the sky with a sense of wonder, and with the hope that one day we might finally uncover what lies hidden within. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of ancient mysteries, we now arrive at a site that holds the secrets of a civilization whose very existence is still shrouded in uncertainty. Nuraxi, one of the most intriguing and enigmatic monuments in the Mediterranean. Situated in the heart of Sardinia, Italy, Nuraxi stands as a towering symbol of the island's prehistoric past, yet its purpose, origins, and the people who built it remain elusive, even as it continues to captivate scholars, archaeologists, and curious minds alike. The site, which dates back to around 1500 BC, is part of a larger network of stone structures scattered across Sardinia, collectively known as the Nurag, a term used to describe the round, tower-like fortresses constructed by the island's mysterious Nuragic civilization. Nuraxi is the largest and most impressive of these structures, a fortress composed of massive stones, some weighing several tons, carefully arranged in a complex, multi-story design. The central tower, which rises above the rest, is surrounded by a maze of smaller towers, walls, and courtyards, all interconnected by narrow passageways and staircases. Its sheer scale and architectural sophistication suggest that it was no mere dwelling. It was a place of power, a fortification, and possibly a spiritual center. Standing at the site, the towering stones feel almost alive, as if they are holding within them the forgotten memories of a long-lost civilization. The wind whispers through the cracks in the stone, and one can't help but wonder, what did the builders of Nuraxi intend when they constructed this monumental structure? Why did they invest so much labor, skill, and resources into creating such an imposing, intricate complex, and what role did it play in their society? Mainstream archaeologists have long believed that the nurags served as fortified towers or watchtowers, built to protect the inhabitants from invaders or rival tribes. Given Sardinia's geographical position in the Mediterranean, such a structure would have been invaluable in offering strategic advantage, allowing its defenders to spot approaching threats from miles away. The advanced engineering required to construct these towers, using a corbelled technique where stones are stacked in a precise, interlocking pattern, suggests that the Nuragic people were highly skilled in architecture and construction, far beyond what might be expected of such an ancient civilization. Yet, despite the conventional explanations, Nuraxi, and indeed the entire Nuragic culture, resists easy categorization. The exact identity of the Nuragic people is still a matter of debate. Some scholars argue that they were indigenous to Sardinia, developing their own unique culture and technology, while others suggest that they were influenced by neighboring Mediterranean civilizations, such as the Phoenicians or the Mycenaeans. The lack of written records from the Nuragic civilization further complicates our understanding of their society. What we know of them comes primarily from the physical remnants they left behind. The Nurig structures, pottery, tools, and burial sites. Yet these artifacts reveal only a fraction of the story. The purpose of the Nurig towers remains a subject of ongoing speculation. While many believe they were military fortresses, others argue that they had a more spiritual or ceremonial role. The layout of Nuraxi is highly unusual for a defensive structure, with its narrow passageways, staircases, and multiple levels, suggesting that it may have also served as a place of social gathering or religious rites. The fact that some of the Nurig were built with no clear entrances, suggesting that access to certain parts of the structure may have been restricted, has led some researchers to propose that they were not only used for defense, but also as sacred spaces, reserved for ritual or spiritual purposes. Could Nuraxi have been a place of worship, where the people of Sardinia gathered to honor their gods or ancestors? Or perhaps it was a symbol of power, a monument that demonstrated the authority of its builders? Adding to the mystery is the unique and seemingly inexplicable design of the Nurag. Unlike other ancient fortresses or towers, Nuraxi does not adhere to the traditional rectangular or circular forms of military architecture. Instead, it features a series of interconnected rooms and structures with no clear central plan or organization. Some researchers have suggested that this irregular design could reflect the organic, decentralized nature of Nuragic society, where power may have been distributed among different clans or families, rather than being concentrated in the hands of a single ruler. The lack of a cohesive design raises intriguing questions. Was Nuraxi a symbol of the fractured nature of the Nuragic society, or did its labyrinthine layout reflect something more profound, perhaps a connection to the cosmos, the heavens, or the afterlife? What's more, the presence of a sophisticated water system at Nuraxi further deepens the enigma. The site includes a well-constructed cistern, capable of collecting and storing rainwater, an impressive feat for a civilization living in an environment with hot, dry summers. The existence of this water system suggests that the builders of Nuraxi had a deep understanding of the natural environment and the ability to engineer practical solutions to the challenges they faced. Was the presence of the water system simply a practical necessity, or did it hold a deeper symbolic meaning, perhaps related to the cycle of life and death, fertility, or purification? One of the most compelling aspects of Nuraxi, however, is the persistent connection it holds to the larger question of the Nuragic culture's origins and its relationship to other Mediterranean civilizations. Although Sardinia's Nuragic civilization was unique in many ways, there are clear parallels between the Nurag and the tower-like structures of other ancient cultures, such as the Cyclopean walls of Mycenaean Greece or the megalithic temples of Malta. Could the Nuragic people have been influenced by these neighboring civilizations, or did they develop independently? Some fringe theories suggest that the Nuragic people may have had contact with far more distant cultures, perhaps even ancient Egyptians or Mesopotamians, though there is little direct evidence to support such claims. Still, the impressive scale and complexity of Nuraxi invite speculation about the possible exchange of knowledge and ideas across the ancient Mediterranean world. The site has also sparked theories about the possible astronomical or cosmological significance of its design. Like other ancient structures, the layout of Nuraxi appears to align with specific celestial events, such as the solstices and equinoxes. Could the Nureg have been constructed with the intention of marking the passage of time or tracking the movements of the stars? Was it a symbol of the connection between the human world and the cosmos, a place where the people of Sardinia could observe the celestial rhythms and align their lives with the heavens? The more we delve into the mysteries of Nuraxi, the more questions arise, leaving us to wonder, what knowledge did the builders of this monumental site possess, and how did they perceive their place in the grand scheme of the universe? Standing at the site of Nuraxi today, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe. The towering stones, weathered by millennia of wind and rain, continue to stand as silent sentinels, holding secrets that have yet to be uncovered. The intricacy of the structure, combined with the mystery of its purpose and origins, invites us to look deeper, to question what we think we know about the ancient world. What drove the builders of Nuraxi to construct such a grand monument? What did they believe, and how did they see the world around them? As we reflect on these questions, we are reminded that the past is often far more complex and layered than we can fully comprehend. The mysteries of Nuraxi, like so many ancient sites, may never be fully understood. But it is precisely this sense of mystery that keeps us searching, keeps us questioning, and keeps us coming back to the stones, the walls, and the ancient past, hoping that one day the full story will be revealed. Until then, we are left to wonder, what is hidden within the stones of Nuraxi, waiting to be discovered? The Ring of Brodgar, a colossal stone circle located on the Orkney Islands off the coast of northern Scotland, is a site that echoes the mysteries of the distant past. Here, in the remote wilderness, amidst the windswept landscape and the ever-changing sky, the stones stand as silent witnesses to a time long forgotten, a time when the very forces of nature seem to converge around these massive, upright monoliths. Dating back over 4,000 years, this remarkable circle of stones is one of the most awe-inspiring and enigmatic structures of the Neolithic period. Yet, even today, the true purpose and significance of the Ring of Brodgar remain elusive, sparking speculation, wonder, and a deep sense of mystery. At first glance, the sight of the Ring of Brodgar can be both humbling and breathtaking. The circle, once composed of 60 towering stones, now stands with only 27 still upright, their surfaces weathered by centuries of wind and rain, their shapes and sizes varying, some jagged and angular, others smooth and rounded. The stones themselves are made of a type of sandstone known as red sandstone, their rich, earthy tones contrasting against the green of the surrounding landscape. The stones range in height from just a few feet to over 15 feet, and their weight is immense, with each stone being carefully placed in its current position. The ring itself spans an area of around 100 meters, 328 feet, in diameter, and it is thought to have originally been part of a much larger ceremonial complex. The most striking aspect of the Ring of Brodgar is its sheer scale and precision. Even without knowing its full history, one can sense the significance of this site, a place where the forces of nature and human ingenuity met to create something monumental. The design of the circle itself suggests that the builders had a deep understanding of geometry and astronomy. The alignment of the stones, though not perfectly precise, seems to follow the movements of the sun and moon, and it is possible that the ring was used to mark solstices or other important celestial events. Some stones within the circle also appear to be aligned with distant hills and landmarks, indicating a possible link between the site and the natural geography of the surrounding area. It is tempting to assume that the Ring of Brodgar was simply another form of prehistoric architecture, a place of ritual, a location for some unknown spiritual or religious practices. But the mystery of Brodgar goes far deeper. The circle is part of a larger group of Neolithic monuments scattered across Orkney, including the nearby standing stones of Stennis and the burial mound of Maisho. Together, these sites form a complex network of ritualistic locations, each with its own peculiarities and enigmatic features. What role did these sites play in the lives of the ancient inhabitants of Orkney? And why was so much effort invested in their construction, often at great distances from any settlement or farm? Mainstream archaeologists generally agree that the Ring of Brodgar, along with the other monuments in the area, was likely a ceremonial center. It may have been a place for religious rituals, where the ancient people of Orkney gathered to mark significant events in the agricultural calendar, such as the changing of the seasons or the harvest. Some scholars propose that it was a place for ancestor worship, or perhaps even an astronomical observatory, allowing its builders to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. The shape of the circle itself, with its perfect geometry, could suggest a desire to symbolize cosmic order, and the alignment with the solstices might indicate that the people who constructed the site viewed their world as a reflection of celestial patterns. Yet, for all the clarity provided by these theories, there are many aspects of the Ring of Brodgar that remain ambiguous. Why did the builders choose such a specific location for the circle? Or was the site chosen by chance, based on practical considerations such as the availability of materials or ease of access? The stones themselves, although clearly arranged in a deliberate pattern, show no obvious signs of wear or use that would indicate they served a functional purpose beyond their symbolic or spiritual role. Why, then, were they erected in such an intricate configuration? Could there have been another, even deeper meaning behind the Ring of Brodgar, one that has eluded researchers for centuries? The sheer effort and labor that went into constructing the Ring of Brodgar raises further questions. Moving and positioning these enormous stones would have required a considerable amount of human resources and ingenuity. But how were the stones transported? How did the builders, with the technology available to them at the time, move such massive blocks of stone from distant quarries to the site? The closest known quarry is located several miles away, leading some researchers to speculate that the builders may have used some form of sledges, rollers, or perhaps even waterways to transport the stones. Alternatively, they may have had knowledge of more sophisticated engineering techniques that have been lost to time. The methods employed in the construction of the Ring of Brodgar remain unknown, further deepening the mystery of this ancient monument. Beyond these practical concerns, there is the question of the people who built the monument. Little is known about the society that created the Ring of Brodgar. Who were they? What were their customs, beliefs, and daily lives like? The archaeological evidence suggests that the Orkney Islands were populated by a highly skilled and organized society, capable of large-scale construction projects. But beyond that, the people of this ancient civilization remain elusive. Some have speculated that the builders were part of a larger regional culture that spanned the British Isles, while others suggest that they may have been a unique, isolated group with their own distinct traditions. The absence of written records from this time period only adds to the enigma, leaving us to piece together fragments of evidence and speculate about their lives. One of the more fascinating aspects of the Ring of Brodgar is its possible connection to other ancient cultures. Some researchers have drawn comparisons between the Ring of Brodgar and other ancient stone circles found throughout Europe, such as Stonehenge in England and the Karnak stones in France. These structures share similar alignments and geometric forms, and it has been suggested that there may have been a wider network of communication and cultural exchange between the different Neolithic communities of Europe. Could the builders of the Ring of Brodgar have been part of a broader, interconnected tradition of stone-building cultures that spanned the continent? And if so, what knowledge did they share, and how did they come to develop such sophisticated engineering techniques? Adding another layer of intrigue is the fact that the Ring of Brodgar, like many other ancient monuments, has been subject to various myths and legends throughout the centuries. Local folklore tells of mystical powers associated with the stones, and some have claimed that the ring has healing properties. Others have suggested that it was used for more nefarious purposes, perhaps as a place of ritual sacrifice or dark ceremonies. These stories, though steeped in legend, may hold a kernel of truth. Perhaps the people of the ancient world attributed more than just astronomical or spiritual significance to these monuments. Perhaps they saw them as the focal points for supernatural forces beyond our understanding. Despite centuries of study, much of the mystery of the Ring of Brodgar remains unsolved. The stone circle stands today as an enduring testament to the ingenuity and spirituality of an ancient people whose beliefs, technology, and culture have long since faded into the mists of time. Yet the questions it raises about the builders, the purpose, and the deeper meaning behind the monument still remain. The stones continue to stand, untouched by the passage of time, as a reminder that there are still mysteries hidden in the past that we may never fully understand. As we stand before the Ring of Brodgar, we are left to wonder, what knowledge did its builders possess, and what truths might lie buried beneath the surface of this ancient circle? Perhaps, like so many other enigmatic monuments, the full significance of the Ring of Brodgar will never be fully revealed. But its silence invites us to continue searching, to keep questioning, and to look to the stones for answers that may never come. As the sun rises over the distant hills of the Mpumalanga province in South Africa, a curious formation of stones becomes visible, lying just below the horizon. This site, known as Adam's Calendar, has quietly stood the test of time, an ancient structure shrouded in mystery, whose origins are difficult to pinpoint. The stones are weathered, etched by centuries of wind and rain, yet their purposeful arrangement still conveys a sense of something far more significant than simple stonework. Standing at the heart of Adam's Calendar, one can't help but feel an eerie sense of connection with the past, a past that stretches far beyond the reach of written history, to a time when the forces of nature and ancient human knowledge were entwined in ways we are only beginning to understand. The site, often referred to as the African Stonehenge, is an arrangement of standing stones and rock formations located in the highlands of South Africa, not far from the town of Nelspruit. But unlike the more famous Stonehenge in England, the significance of Adam's Calendar has remained enigmatic, leaving archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts to debate its true purpose. At the heart of the formation is a massive, flat stone, sometimes called the altar stone, around which several upright megaliths stand in a near-perfect circle. These stones, though varying in size, share a common feature. They seem to be positioned with deliberate care, aligning with the movements of the sun and stars. Some are taller, while others are smaller, arranged in a way that suggests an intentional plan, a structure that may have served a ritualistic, astronomical, or ceremonial purpose. The main stone circle, surrounded by smaller outlying stones, measures around 30 meters in diameter, suggesting that this was a site of considerable importance. The site's alignment with the sun's rays is particularly striking. During certain times of the year, the light of the rising sun cuts through gaps between the stones, casting long shadows and illuminating certain parts of the structure. These alignments, especially during the solstices, hint at an advanced understanding of celestial movements, much like the builders of other ancient stone circles across the world. Some believe the site may have served as an astronomical observatory, used to track the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Its alignment could suggest that the people who constructed this site had a deep knowledge of both the heavens and the earth, a connection that transcends time and place. What sets Adam's calendar apart, however, is not just its impressive alignment with celestial bodies, but the sheer mystery that envelops it. The site is believed to date back to anywhere from 75,000 to 300,000 years ago, depending on which hypothesis is accepted. This staggering timeline suggests that the site may have been constructed by a civilization far older than any other known to history. And yet, despite the ongoing research and excavation efforts, little is known about the people who built this monument. Who were they, and what was their relationship to the land, the stars, and the cycles of nature? The mainstream view, as held by many archaeologists, is that Adam's calendar was constructed by early humans, possibly ancestors of modern-day Bantu or Khoisan peoples, who used the site for tracking the agricultural seasons or for ceremonial purposes. The site could have been a calendar of sorts, marking key moments in the year, such as solstices and equinoxes, which would have been critical for early agricultural societies. This interpretation places the site within the broader context of other ancient megalithic structures, like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Giza, that were also concerned with marking the passage of time and the alignment of the natural world. But other theories suggest something more unconventional. Some researchers have proposed that Adam's calendar might be the work of a much more advanced and much older civilization, one that predates modern humanity's understanding of time. This theory has sparked fascination and controversy alike. How could a society existing hundreds of thousands of years ago possess the knowledge and technology to create such a sophisticated structure? Was there an ancient civilization, lost to history, that mastered astronomy, mathematics, and stone construction long before the rise of the ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, or Mayans? Another theory posits that Arbor Low may have been used by early communities for social gathering and ritual feasting, events that may have been centered around solar and lunar phenomena. Early agricultural societies were deeply attuned to the changing seasons, and such events would have played an essential role in their lives. Yet, the lack of evidence for any tangible activities suggests that the true purpose of Arbor Low may have been more symbolic or spiritual in nature, transcending the purely practical. The central stone of Arbor Low, the massive, flat slab, has also drawn significant attention. Some have described it as an altar stone, potentially used for offerings or sacrifices, while others believe it might have been a site for ritualistic gatherings. Its size and position within the circle suggest that it was meant to draw focus, to anchor the site in some significant way. Was it a place where early people marked the passage of time, or did it hold an even more sacred purpose? Perhaps it acted as a symbolic representation of a cosmic axis, connecting the earth to the heavens. There is also the question of the origin of the stones themselves. Some of the megaliths are made of local limestone, while others appear to be transported from much farther away, raising the question of how and why such stones were chosen. The transportation of massive stones across great distances, especially in an era before modern tools and machinery, would have required significant effort and knowledge, adding to the site's aura of mystery. Beyond these hypotheses, local legends also contribute to the enigmatic aura of Arbor Low. Some tell of ancient rituals performed by druids or mysterious stone circles that were part of a forgotten spiritual tradition. Others claim that the stones are imbued with a kind of ancient power, a force that remains dormant, waiting to be awakened. The folklore surrounding the site suggests that it may have been a place of spiritual awakening or transformation, where those who gathered there could experience a shift in consciousness or receive messages from a higher power. Yet despite all of the theories and speculation, the true function of Arbor Low remains shrouded in uncertainty. Its purpose, its builders, and its meaning are still open to interpretation, and perhaps always will be. What can we know for sure? That Arbor Low stands as a testament to the ingenuity and curiosity of the people who built it, those who looked to the heavens and the land around them and sought to understand their place in the vast and uncharted world. Arbor Low is a monument that invites us to reflect on the mysteries of the past. It asks questions that continue to resonate through time. What did our ancestors believe? How did they understand the world around them? And what knowledge, lost to history, might still lie hidden in the stones? As the wind whispers through the stones of Arbor Low, we are left to wonder, what secrets does this ancient ring still hold? What remains just beyond the reach of our understanding, waiting to be discovered? Nestled quietly in the rolling hills of the Peak District in England, a ring of ancient stones rises from the earth, as weathered and worn as the landscape itself. This enigmatic site, known as Arbor Low, seems to whisper secrets that have long evaded modern understanding. The stone circle, dating back to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, stands in an isolated field, its stones arranged in an open, shallow depression in the ground. The stillness of the site, coupled with its austere beauty, evokes a sense of timeless mystery. At first glance, Arbor Low may appear to be another of the countless prehistoric stone circles scattered across the British Isles, but there is something uniquely arresting about this site. Unlike the towering vertical stones of other megalithic monuments such as Stonehenge, the stones of Arbor Low lie flat, scattered in a haphazard yet deliberate manner. In the center of the circle, a large, solitary stone slab lies horizontally, surrounded by smaller stones, some of which are only partially visible beneath the earth. The arrangement is peculiar. While some stones are upright, others are prostrate, creating an odd sense of disarray. This strange positioning has led to much speculation about the true purpose of the site. What were the people who built Arbor Low attempting to convey? What did these stones symbolize, and why did they choose such a specific configuration? Arbor Low is part of a larger group of prehistoric sites known as the Derbyshire Circle. It is situated near other important megalithic sites, such as Cresswell Crags and the Nine Ladies Stone Circle, suggesting that it was once part of a broader landscape of ritualistic significance. Despite its isolation today, Arbor Low may have once been an important ceremonial center, a place where the celestial and terrestrial intersected. The circle's alignment, particularly its relation to the solstices, has raised intriguing questions. Was Arbor Low used to mark important solar events, such as the midwinter sun? The layout of the stones appears to have been carefully planned to interact with the sun's rays, with some of the stones aligned in a way that hints at an intimate knowledge of the seasonal rhythms of the earth. Some scholars suggest that Arbor Low could have served as a solar observatory, a tool for tracking the cycles of the sun, the passing of the seasons, or perhaps even marking key dates in an ancient agricultural calendar. This theory draws a parallel with other megalithic structures, such as Newgrange in Ireland and Stonehenge, where similar alignments are evident. The precision with which these monuments were constructed suggests that the builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, but the specific function of Arbor Low remains elusive. What makes Arbor Low particularly fascinating is the absence of any significant archaeological finds. Unlike other megalithic sites, which have yielded tools, bones, or pottery, Arbor Low has offered very little in terms of physical evidence. There are no burial mounds or human remains to suggest that it was used for funerary practices, nor are there any artifacts that definitively point to its function. In fact, much of the site has been subject to centuries of erosion, and the stones themselves bear the marks of time, leading some to believe that the original purpose of Arbor Low may never be fully understood. The stones, partially buried in the earth, could be hiding secrets that we will never uncover. Speculation about the purpose of Arbor Low has flourished, with some proposing more mystical interpretations. Was Arbor Low a place of ritualistic significance, perhaps connected to earth worship, or could it have served as a gathering point for ancient communities? Some fringe theories suggest that the site was not just a place of astronomical observation, but a gateway to another world, a space where the living and the dead were believed to come into contact. The flatness of the stones and the central reclining stone could symbolize a portal, offering a visual and symbolic connection between the heavens and the earth, or the afterlife. The gateway theory echoes similar beliefs held by ancient cultures worldwide, in which specific sites were seen as points of contact between mortal realms and the divine. Even more speculative ideas have been raised, including the possibility that Arbor Low was part of a larger spiritual network of sacred sites spread across the British Isles. Some have suggested that its location could correspond to other ancient centers of power, connected by ley lines or some unseen energetic force. Whether or not such theories have any basis in fact is still unknown, but they hint at a deeper, perhaps forgotten connection to the land that transcends mere human construction. A theory put forward by researcher and author Michael Tellinger, who has spent years investigating Adam's calendar, suggests that the site may have been created by an even more ancient race of humans, or perhaps even extraterrestrial visitors, who had knowledge far beyond what is typically associated with prehistoric civilizations. This speculative idea points to the stone formation's intricate alignments and their ability to function as a precise timekeeping device. Tellinger proposes that the calendar may have been part of a global network of ancient sites, all connected by a common knowledge of cosmic cycles. In this theory, Adam's calendar represents a remnant of an advanced technological age that existed long before known history. But even this hypothesis faces significant scrutiny. While the alignment of the stones does suggest a sophisticated understanding of celestial bodies, it remains unclear exactly how these people would have been able to achieve such precision without the tools and technologies we associate with advanced civilizations. The stones themselves are made of local sandstone and granite, and though they are large, they do not appear to be especially difficult to move by prehistoric standards. The mystery, however, is not just in the construction, but in the precise measurements and cosmic alignments that are evident within the site. How did they measure time and space with such accuracy without the use of written language or advanced instruments? Adding to the intrigue, some researchers have raised questions about the purpose of the altar stone at the center of the circle. Its flat, smooth surface seems to suggest that it was intended for ritualistic use, perhaps for sacrifices or astronomical observations. Could this be the remnant of a religious or spiritual practice that connected the people to the cosmos? If so, what was the nature of their beliefs? Were they simply observing the cycles of the sun and moon, or did they believe that these celestial events were imbued with divine or cosmic significance? Interestingly, there are also local legends and folklore surrounding Adam's calendar that further deepen the sense of mystery. The name Adam's calendar itself is derived from the idea that this might be the first calendar created by humanity, with some interpretations linking it to the biblical figure of Adam. Local myths suggest that the site was once a gathering place for ancient spiritual rituals, perhaps used to mark important life events or to communicate with unseen forces. These stories, though rooted in folklore, add a layer of cultural richness to the site, suggesting that the people who created Adam's calendar had a profound connection to the natural world. Despite the speculative theories and intriguing alignments, much of the mystery remains unresolved. The lack of definitive archaeological evidence, such as artifacts, written records, or clear signs of human habitation, means that we are left to infer the purpose and meaning of the site from the stones themselves. What we know for certain is that Adam's calendar is one of the most intriguing archaeological sites in the world. It stands as a testament to the ingenuity, curiosity, and spiritual connection that ancient humans shared with the universe. As the sun sets over Adam's calendar, casting long shadows across the landscape, one is left to wonder, what knowledge has been lost to time? What secrets do these stones still hold? And who were the people who created this extraordinary site? People whose story, despite our best efforts, remains locked within the stones and the earth. As the calendar continues to mark the passing of centuries, the mysteries of Adam's calendar persist, inviting us to seek answers in a world that, for all our progress, still holds its ancient secrets close. Nestled within the green hills of County Sligo, Ireland, there exists an ancient site that speaks to a time long past, yet its purpose remains enshrouded in mystery. Cuicuilco Court Tomb, an imposing structure built from massive stone slabs, sits quietly, almost deliberately inconspicuous, in a tranquil valley. Unlike the more well-known megalithic sites of Ireland, Cuicuilco has largely remained off the beaten path for many visitors, allowing it to retain a sense of seclusion and timelessness. Its very presence invites questions about the people who built it, the rituals they performed, and the purpose of such a monument. The tomb is a court tomb, a type of prehistoric burial site unique to Ireland and Scotland. Court tombs are often marked by a central court area, surrounded by a series of chambers, which together form an elongated rectangular shape. Cuicuilco is a remarkable example of this structure, consisting of a large central courtyard, where once the living may have gathered, and an impressive series of stone chambers that were likely used for burial rites. The chambers themselves are constructed with large, carefully placed stones, many of which were transported from the surrounding area, suggesting a complex system of labor and an understanding of architecture far ahead of its time. The sheer scale of the construction is impressive. However, it is the mystery surrounding its exact purpose that draws us in. The tomb is believed to date from the Neolithic period, around 4000 BC to 3500 BC, a time when Ireland was in the midst of a profound transformation. The earliest farmers were settling in the region, gradually shifting from a nomadic existence to one that centered around farming, domestication of animals, and the building of permanent structures. This was also a period in which the dead were revered and treated with great care, often in elaborate burial rituals that spanned generations. What was the role of Cuicuilco in this evolving social and spiritual landscape? On one level, it seems clear that the tomb was constructed for burial purposes. Yet, the complexity and scale of the structure, with its multiple chambers, suggests it may have served more than a purely funerary function. The tomb, with its massive stones and alignment to the surrounding landscape, might have had a ceremonial or ritual purpose that went beyond the needs of the dead. Why was it so important to build such an elaborate monument to the deceased? Could it have been a site of worship, or perhaps a focal point for the living to commune with their ancestors or gods? One intriguing aspect of Cuicuilco is the sheer effort involved in its construction. The stones used to form the tomb are extraordinarily large, and the process of quarrying, transporting, and placing them in their precise positions would have required considerable effort and organization. How did the builders manage to move these massive stones, some of which weigh several tons? Was it through a rudimentary system of sledges and ropes, or did they employ methods that have since been forgotten to history? Some researchers believe that these early builders had access to techniques that we may never fully understand, whether through sheer manpower, clever engineering, or even, some speculate, unknown methods of lifting and transportation. The fact that the tomb was constructed with such deliberate care raises another question. What did the builders believe about death and the afterlife? The Neolithic people who created Cuicuilco lived in a world where the supernatural and the physical were intimately connected. Were they attempting to bridge the gap between life and death? Was the construction of such a monumental structure meant to ensure the safe passage of the dead into the afterlife? Or did it serve to protect the living from the spirits of the departed? It's known that Neolithic tombs were often built as communal burial sites, and Cuicuilco is no exception. It has been suggested that this court tomb could have functioned as a family tomb, where the remains of several generations were laid to rest together. Why would such a significant effort have been made to honor the dead of a single family or clan? What social, political, or religious factors could have driven this need to construct such an elaborate tomb? Moreover, Cuicuilco is situated in a landscape rich with symbolism. The site is aligned with the surrounding natural features in a way that suggests a deep understanding of the geography and celestial movements. The positioning of the tomb, facing the rising sun during key times of the year, has led to speculation that the tomb was used for astronomical purposes. Could it have been designed to track the solstices and equinoxes? Perhaps the people who built Cuicuilco were not only interested in the passage of time, but also in aligning their spiritual and physical worlds with the movements of the heavens. This would align the tomb with other prehistoric monuments across the world, such as Stonehenge in England or the Newgrange Passage tomb in Ireland, which are both thought to have astronomical significance. Another point of intrigue at Cuicuilco is the presence of artifacts found in and around the tomb. Although the site itself is relatively sparse in terms of discoveries, there have been indications that the builders may have had ritualistic objects buried with the dead. These artifacts, which include pottery, tools, and even remnants of human remains, hint at the practices and beliefs of the Neolithic people. Were these items meant to accompany the dead in their journey to the afterlife? Were they offerings to the gods or ancestors? Some have speculated that Cuicuilco might have also served as a ceremonial gathering site, a place where the living came together to perform rites that could ensure the fertility of the land, the success of crops, or the well-being of their community. Could this site have been an important religious or political center for the local tribes or clans? In a time before written records, such rituals and ceremonies would have been vital in maintaining social cohesion and spiritual well-being. Was Cuicuilco a gathering point for these early farmers, where they could seek guidance from their ancestors or appease the forces of nature? The mystery of Cuicuilco Court Tomb is not just about what was built, but about the people who constructed it. The labor required, the planning involved, and the significance of the monument within its cultural and natural landscape point to a complex, deeply spiritual society, one that is not fully understood by modern archaeologists. What we do know is that Cuicuilco was more than just a tomb. It was a manifestation of belief, labor, and understanding. Whether it was a communal burial site, a ritual space, or a link to the heavens, it remains a symbol of the complex relationship between the living, the dead, and the forces beyond their understanding. But as with many ancient sites, the purpose of Cuicuilco remains elusive. The deeper one looks into its history, the more questions emerge. Was it purely a burial site, or did it also function as a center for astronomical observation? Was it a religious site, a place where the living could communicate with the dead, or was it simply a marker of a specific time and place in the evolution of human culture? Despite centuries of research and exploration, Cuicuilco Court Tomb continues to resist a definitive explanation. As we stand before it today, we can only marvel at the mystery of its existence, the skilled labor required to build it, the spiritual meaning it may have held, and the legacy it leaves behind, hidden in plain sight among the stones. What truths remain buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? What stories will the stones of Cuicuilco tell us next? Perhaps time will tell, or perhaps, like so many other ancient sites, it will remain forever elusive, its secrets locked in the stone, forever calling to us from the past. Hidden in the quiet countryside of France, tucked away in a small, remote area near the village of Bagneux in the Loire Valley, lies a monument that has both perplexed and fascinated archaeologists and historians alike. The Dolmen de Bagneux, a massive megalithic structure, stands silently in a meadow, its weighty stones rising from the earth like silent sentinels guarding a long-forgotten secret. At first glance, it might seem like just another ancient burial site, a relic from a distant era when humans built great stone structures to honor the dead. But the Dolmen de Bagneux is no ordinary monument. It raises more questions than answers, and its mystery has lingered for millennia. The dolmen itself is part of a wider network of Neolithic megalithic structures scattered across the French landscape, though it is one of the most imposing and well-preserved examples. The structure is classified as a passage tomb, a term that describes a burial site built using large stones, with a narrow passageway leading into a chamber where the remains of the deceased would be placed. The Dolmen de Banyu is no exception. Its central chamber is carefully aligned, and its colossal stones bear the unmistakable hallmarks of a structure built for ritual and ceremonial purposes. What is truly striking about the Dolmen de Banyu is the sheer size and weight of the stones used in its construction. Some of the stones, which form the walls of the burial chamber, are so large that it is difficult to imagine how the Neolithic people, who had no advanced machinery or tools, managed to move and position them with such precision. The largest stones weigh several tons, and their transport across the landscape would have been a monumental feat, requiring a level of coordination, skill, and effort that would have consumed a great deal of time and labor. Scholars have long debated how the builders could have moved these massive stones, given the limited technology available to them. The prevailing theory suggests that the stones were transported using a combination of sledges, rolls, and lever systems, but this does not fully explain the complexity of the construction. Did the builders have a secret technique? Some have even speculated that the people who constructed the dolmen possessed knowledge that has been lost to time, possibly even techniques that are outside our current understanding of ancient engineering. Or perhaps, like other megalithic sites, there are astronomical or spiritual reasons behind the precise placement and alignment of the stones. As we stand before the Dolmen de Banyu today, its immense stones seem to challenge our understanding of how and why it was constructed. The structure is aligned with the natural landscape in a way that suggests the builders may have had a deep understanding of the environment. The positioning of the dolmen relative to the surrounding hills and rivers indicates that it was not simply an arbitrary choice. Instead, it may have been deliberately placed to interact with the sun, the stars, or other celestial events, just like other megalithic structures such as Stonehenge or Newgrange. But the true purpose of its location remains a mystery. Was it an astronomical observatory? A symbol of power and status for the community? Or perhaps, as many believe, it was designed to be a gateway to the afterlife, a place where the spirits of the dead could pass into another realm. The burial chamber inside the Dolmen de Banyu is relatively simple in its design, yet its purpose is unmistakable. It is a place for the dead, a final resting place for individuals whose lives have long since passed into the distant fog of prehistory. The question that inevitably arises, however, is why such an elaborate structure would be created for a single burial. Why go to such effort to build such an imposing monument for the deceased? And why was it chosen for this site, among all the other possible locations in the region? Some archaeologists suggest that the Dolmen de Banyu could have been used for ritualistic purposes beyond the simple burial of the dead. Its imposing structure may have been designed to impress, to awe, and to show power. It might have served as a focal point for the community's religious practices, a symbol of their connection to the divine or the supernatural. Perhaps it was a spiritual center, where people came to worship the gods or commune with their ancestors. The size of the structure suggests that it would have been a monumental and ceremonial space, capable of hosting large gatherings. The celestial alignment of the dolmen, its relationship to the position of the sun during key times of the year, further supports the idea that it may have had a spiritual or ritual function. Ancient peoples across the world were keenly aware of the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars, and many megalithic structures are known to have been built with astronomical precision. Could the Dolmen de Banyu have been designed to track the solstices or to mark other significant events in the ancient calendar? Its position in the landscape, with a clear view of the surrounding hills and valleys, suggests that the builders may have had an intimate connection with the changing seasons and with the natural rhythms of life and death. But beyond its construction and ceremonial purpose, another question lingers. Who were the people who built the Dolmen de Bagno? What did they believe, and how did their worldview shape the monuments they left behind? The builders of these megalithic structures lived in a world that was very different from our own, a world without written language, without the technology and resources that we take for granted. Their beliefs would have been shaped by their experiences with the land, the animals, and the forces of nature that governed their lives. Did they believe that the dolmen connected them to the gods? Or was it merely a tomb for the powerful and elite members of society, a testament to their status and wealth? The location of the dolmen, like many other megalithic sites, raises more questions than it answers. It is positioned in a natural landscape that is rich in meaning, near rivers, hills, and other sacred places. Some have suggested that the dolmen could have been built in a location with special geological properties, perhaps near underground springs or other energy sources that were considered sacred by the ancient people. Could it have been a ritualistic site, where the interaction of the physical and spiritual worlds was believed to occur in powerful ways? Was it constructed not just for the dead, but for the living as well, a place of power, mystery, and connection to the unseen forces of nature? As time passes, the Dolmen de Bagno continues to guard its secrets. Despite centuries of investigation and research, the true purpose of the dolmen remains a mystery, one that seems to grow more complex the deeper we look. Was it a symbol of power, a spiritual center, or simply a burial monument? Was it a place where the living communed with the dead, or perhaps a ritualistic site used to honor the gods? The questions continue to multiply, and the answers remain elusive, lost in the mists of time. Yet, perhaps that is part of the dolmen's power, the fact that it continues to resist complete understanding. As we stand before its towering stones, we are reminded of the mystery of the ancient world, a world where belief, ritual, and construction intersected in ways we may never fully comprehend. The Dolmen de Bagno may never reveal all its secrets, but its silent presence invites us to wonder. What else lies hidden beneath the stones, waiting to be uncovered? What truths might still lie buried in the earth, waiting for the right moment to emerge?